Shalom, Brukuba. Welcome. We have dog camera here. Also, my kids are still awake, and very much you will hear them in the background as they're preparing for tomorrow, which is a family member's birthday. So they're making cupcakes and whatnot.
Oh,
So we're gonna get into some stuff. Last week we went over Hebrew. This week we might go over Hebrew a little bit, but not nearly as much as we did last week. So that was basically all last week was just Hebrew. And then a 45-minute rant on macroevolution and abiogenesis being stupid. That was fun. If you missed that, I was sick. Very much should not have streamed for 2 hours, and still ended up streaming for 2 hours because we went for a 45-minute rant on why creation has obviously happened. And
yeah, I should have been more responsible with my not baiting Chris, but not making sure I didn't entice him into talking more because he was feeling pretty rough. And
yeah,
then
I
I
was struggling
started
towards the end
talking.
there. Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna go over, if you didn't see last stream, Genesis is pretty based. We just went over Genesis 1:1. So it was a 2-hour stream on one sentence. Uh and yeah, it's pretty cool. Bible be deep sometimes. Anyway, how you guys doing?
Same as always. I realized on was it Saturday night? Yeah, Saturday night. I was informed that I was a slippery Judaizer by
Ah,
making
yes.
the mistake of going online not with Chris. It was a good conversation though, but the follow-up comments, I don't think anybody really got what I was saying, or because I was labeled a slippery Judaizer, which I have to admit does sound kind of cool, but I know it's a bad thing, so I'm not gonna wear that badge.
I would
It's a
describe
really
you more
cool
like
sounding
a
name.
you're more like a fuzzy Judaizer than
Yeah, I mean, if
slippery.
anything.
Half of the camera's beard. You're not slipping anywhere, bro. That's friction.
Yeah, I'm the staticky Judaizer.
Yeah,
You'd be a terrible swimmer.
a
Have to
puffy.
shave everything. Yeah. Uh anyway, yeah. Judaizers are such a based sounding name if it didn't was an actual heresy.
Right.
I think that about a lot of the heresies. Glad you're feeling better. I'm glad I'm feeling better too. That was a rough week. But have y'all read The Lost World of Genesis 1? No, I have not.
Mm-mm.
I've read Genesis 1. Is that a predicate or a title of a book?
Okay, let's jump into it. So, gotta get my cow juice real quick. Last week we went over this sentence in Hebrew and how this is basically like, hey, God created the universe because heavens and earth is like the earth is the earth and heavens is everything outside the earth. So heavens plus earth is everything. So in the beginning, God created the universe, and then I went through how that word is unique and interesting. This word is unique and interesting. This word itself is actually pretty unique and interesting too. Bara Elohim's pretty unique and interesting. And then also the combination of the two objects in the sentence is pretty unique and interesting. So this whole sentence is pretty based, and there's 7 words, and the number 7 is the number of perfection. So the first sentence of the Bible is perfect, and it also like dunks on all of the pagan mythologies of Yahweh is like lesser than like the Numa Elish, or like the deities are certain things inside of creation rather than being the creator of those things. So Yahweh kind of like, dunks on the idea that like Tiamat and even Ra or any of the other deities that have to be embodied by something in the universe rather than Yahweh's the creator of those things. It just shows that he is stronger and better and more based than all of the fake deities. So Pretty
I
cool.
had a hyper skeptic moment because you're like, the first sentence is 7 words. Like, well, how can that be? There's no punctuation in ancient Hebrew. But I noticed that after the first 7 words, you have a vav conjunction, and that's
Yeah.
sort of like an ancient sentence structure. So
Right.
they
Which
didn't
is
have
why
a
these
period like
dots
we
are-
have. But if
Yeah.
you go down to that next line with your mouse and can you select just that first letter?
No, I can't select just the first letter.
Oh,
It
okay.
highlights words at a time. Yeah.
But that's kind of like our and what's interesting is just that first letter, note it goes right to left. So it's that one that looks like a little nail. You can almost imagine it in ancient Hebrew. Whenever you want to stick a new sentence onto another one, you jab a nail in there to put the next sentence on.
Right. And if you notice, it's not always translated as and. So this one it is translated as and because it is a continuation. This one is a then instead of it being because it's omur. This is said God, let there be. It's continuing on downward. But this and here is translated as then instead of literally and, even though it's serving the exact same purpose because it is part of the grammar and the sentence structure to denote what's what. That's how we get 7 words, as you were pointing out. Now we also have like actual punctuation now, but back then you didn't. That's the only punctuation you have.
But still, you can tell it's the end of a phrase because it has a vav conjunction and then it has a new subject because your first subject is God.
Right.
Then it switches to ha'etz,
Yeah.
to the earth.
Yeah. The earth was. It's pretty cool.
Hayata.
Yeah. The first time haya or he is used as the root of a word is to be or was. And we went over a couple of those things last time. But like there's this idea that the first time a letter is used as the root of a word in the Torah, that denotes the meaning of the letter. So beta means to create, and the B is a tent or a house. So a house represents order and structure. Beta is to create with your hands or to mold or to fashion. So it represents it. Elef, Elohim, so on. He is this one. Now there are some that obviously don't work, like Shemaim, because this is either boobs or teeth in the ancient Proto-Sinaitic. Yeah, it's definitely teeth later on in Hebrew, but the ancient hieroglyphs could definitely be breast.
Well, and it's often used in words that have to do with destruction. So it's probably teeth, like getting chewed apart.
Yeah. Right. And there are definitely some pointy ones of the pictographs that we have pretty early on. Just relatable. Anyway, super interesting stuff. I went over most of that last week. Pretty cool. So we have, in the beginning, God created the universe, and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. I personally don't see a gap here. I know there's going to be people who are interested in, because we're going to be going over Genesis 1, am I an old earth or young earth? Because I've never actually talked about that yet. I lean towards the young earth, but here's my statement. I will make a dedicated stream just to that topic. I'm not going to talk about that topic in any of the Torah series. That's going to be its own stream. The way I look at it right now is there is really, really overwhelmingly good evidence for both positions. And that's confusing. So what do you do with that? And there's evidence that doesn't fit easily in either of those positions. There are things in the old earth position that make literally no sense whatsoever. There's things in the young earth position I have no idea how to explain. So we have evidence that doesn't fit well anywhere. And we have evidence that is overwhelmingly, shockingly one-sided for both. So who knows? But I lean towards the young earth just because of some statements in the New Testament and because a literal reading is more obvious from Genesis 1. But it could be either. I don't have a firm stance of it has to be one or it has to be the. I think the gospel is easier with the young earth, but I don't think it breaks the gospel. I think it just confuses necessarily some aspects of how we present the gospel, but not the fact that God all of a sudden becomes evil. It just opens up more questions for me than it answers. So I tend to not really talk about it too much. That being said, I have written 150 pages on the topic for one of my books. So even though I don't actually talk about it on camera much, I will eventually. It's just going to be maybe like a year from now. We'll see.
Well, and one could argue that 150 pages is not very much for you, Chris. So
Yeah.
That's how many Pokemon there are in the first generation of Pokemon.
151. Come on, you got to count Mewtwo. Or Mew.
Mew. You have to count
Mew.
Mew,
You have to count Mew.
comma, 2, or Mew as well.
Mew
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. So, anyway, do either of you want to voice your opinion in why you see?
I'll voice my opinion. I'm not going to force it on anyone, though, because I could talk for hours and hours on Genesis and the beginning of Genesis without even going into science. But I'm full on the other side of the spectrum, evolutionist, nasty, everything's metaphorical, gross. I hate to even say the word liberal because I don't ever call myself a liberal, but yeah. So I'm like 100% the opposite, but
Interesting.
yeah.
I'm staunch young Earth, because it's one of those things. I mean, it was easy for me to kind of come to that conclusion because it seems
Because
like
you're a Judaizer.
That's true. I'm one of those slippery young Earth creationists. I think that a plain reading of the Bible just allows for it, and just like anything else that seems contrary to what the Bible says, I'm not opposed to hearing it. But if it seems to not line up, then for me it's just very easily dismissible. But a friend of mine made a point that that I had never thought about, and we were talking about it one day, and he takes these amazing photos of stars and constellations and galaxies and things. He has like a telescope and all this fancy equipment where he can get really amazing images. And he was mentioning how in him locating these things and seeing them and measuring the distance they are from Earth, he was saying it sometimes it confuses me. And then oh, actually, it wasn't him. I said it to him because I'd seen it someone else had said it to me. They had made a point that Adam and Eve, when they were created as full grown adults.
Matured creation. Yeah.
Right. And so if God did that with them, why not with like everything else, like rocks or things, for like a kind of in a fast forward type creation.
Right.
And I never thought about that, and I haven't really explored it. When I first heard that, I thought, oh, that's very interesting because, why not? Why not that too?
Yeah.
So, and like light and distance from things, he could form the galaxy in ways where it's created already in that way. So,
Right.
but yeah, I guess to sum it all up very quickly. I hold to young Earth creationism just because it seems to me that the best explanation from the Bible.
Interesting. So we have like the three opinions you can have, and I'm the
the
terrible fence sitter. Yeah, the different cosmological models you can create for the young Earth is actually pretty interesting. So you could do white hole cosmology instead of black hole cosmology, where the Earth was created first, and then the cosmos was created out of a white hole expanding outward. So he stretched out the heavens, but he stretched out the heavens from the Earth's perspective, and that would dilate time outward as he's going.
Are you trying to say whiteness is superior to blackness, Chris? Is that what you're trying to say?
In terms of cosmology, yes.
It was enough to be on here with a Judaizer.
Anyway, so you can do that, and as you mentioned earlier, the matured creation idea, where Jesus made water into wine, but the amount of years it takes to go from water to good quality wine that doesn't suck is literally like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, depending on the variety of the fruit and how you're fermenting it. But the fact that they're like, this is the best wine I've ever had, or like, an equivalent of that, and it was literally water seconds ago, shows that there was age or a quality of something into the wine that looked like age. So you can there's a variety of examples you can give for matured creation in the Bible. But you also run into there's other possible alternatives for explanations of specific attributes, like the redshift could be explained through the Doppler effect, or it could be explained through plasmoids. Whenever they're very young and energetic, they're naturally redshifted just by itself. So it could be an example of the universe expanding, or it could be a universe that is still but very young and energetic. I have no idea. The evidence we have from the James Webb Space Telescope basically shows that our standard model is wrong. But it doesn't show that the other model is perfectly right either. So again, our knowledge of everything is kind of bad. We pretend like we have significantly better knowledge than we actually have of those things. But like the fact that there's distant galaxies that are fully formed, that are heavily redshifted, makes no sense from what the Space Telescope found. And there's examples of like clouds in front of very, very, very redshifted objects, which is like a Z of like 2.6 or something like that. And that doesn't make any sense whatsoever because light can't travel through a dense cloud. It usually blocks the light. So that indicates that the star is in front of the cloud, but if the star is in front of the cloud, it was next to another star that had like a Z of like 1.2 or something like that. So it is like night and day comparison between those two stars shifts, but they appear to be next to each other, and that makes no sense. But again, I'm going deep into that stream topics. But ultimately, the evidence we use for both positions is usually not as clean as people like to pretend it is. But,
yeah. And even if you go with like the most secular mainstream scientific model, there's compelling arguments for God's existence anyway.
Correct.
So like yes. As a because I became an atheist when I was like 25 for about a year. And cosmological arguments and design arguments still run with a fully secular system. And I have a video on that. I can't remember what it's called. It's like why the atheist movement doesn't make any sense or something like that. It has that fat fedora guy in the thumbnail. And it's like maybe an hour or something. And I go through a lot of the thoughts that I had, like coming back into theism, not even necessarily Christianity, but coming back into theism, and why the multiverse doesn't make any sense for fine tuning and all this sort of thing. So even if you go with totally secular Richard Dawkins type physics, it still points to God.
Yep. Yeah. No matter what cosmology you go with, whether you're an electric universe.
Obviously creationism would point to God. Like, obviously that points to God, but so does a Big Bang model with fine-tuned variables.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty incredible. Then you also have the problem of like infinite regress, and you need an unmoved mover. You need some origin to cause and effect. Even if like, time's not created, but cause and effect is.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So the one that exists within time is the Kalam cosmological argument, but there's all kinds of cosmological arguments like the Leibnizian ones that are just cause and effect. There's also an Aquinas one. There's a whole family of them. And it's basically this idea that, contingent things or causes or sequences in time will end up needing a beginning, and they make sense. Like if you take time and read the literature, there's a book by Andrew Loke. I might grab that if I can see it. Somebody else can talk about something relevant.
McCain said growing up is realizing Aquinas' 5 ways ended atheism for anybody capable of critical thinking, which is true. Pretty much all of those arguments basically prove at least deism. Atheism itself is stupid. The only problem with Aquinas is he's a classical theist, and the version of God that he's arguing for is not technically Yahweh. It's more so the God of Plato, which you can prove deism. You can prove mere deism, but some of the attributes he assigns to deity doesn't actually match the Bible's description of God. Which is why I'm not a Thomist. I think Thomas is a brilliant dude who came up with very good reasons. He expanded upon very good reasons for God's existence. But I think he's arguing for God, not Yahweh. Anyway, I'll do a based classical theism problem video stream, something like that eventually. But the founder of the Zoo Institute is returned.
Yep, and he has a bunch of books with him that are all books that reference some form of cosmological argument. This is by Josh Rasmussen. It has a very confusing cover. It looks like God to lead can reason how, but it's actually how, or see,
reason can lead to God.
How reason can lead to,
yeah.
I had to look
you're
at
elevating yourself as you climb the stairs.
Right, yeah. So Joshua Rasmussen, is everything reversed on the camera?
No, it's fine. We can read it.
Oh, it comes across good on the stream.
Oh, that's trippy. Okay, so it must mirror it. This is one by Andrew Loke, God and Ultimate Origins, a novel cosmological argument. And you can get his books for free online. There's that. But I like paper books. I'm a paper book guy. This one has so he calls all of the arguments from design teleological arguments. So telos just means an end in Greek. And so like things they look like they're made for a purpose. But this is the teleological and Kalam cosmological arguments revisited. So if you can even remember the title of that, you should bring that up next time you're flirting with a girl at the bar. You can take a sniff from your inhaler to get some confidence and then whip out this title and maybe you can pick her up. Natural Theology, the Blackwell Companion. This one's great. It's got essays by all these very smart people. This one's denser. You might want to read one of these other ones first before you get. This is like, I like trains level. Like you're in deep if you're reading that. This one's good too. This is by a physicist and two physicists. One's a Christian and one's an atheist. On the Fine Tuning of the Universe by Luke Barnes and Geraint Lewis. This was a really good book. And then Modern Physics and Ancient Faith by Stephen Barr. He's a Catholic physicist. This one was really good too. So there you go. That's the part of my library that's relevant to the topic we're discussing. All right, I'm going to go put these up.
Okay. Okay, so there's your little tangent onto all those different arguments and everything else for it. But so going back to the Bible, because we still haven't left Genesis 1:1. And the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Well, last week we went over how this might be the Trinity, where we have God, maybe a plural Trinity there, but also maybe the Son there, and God is creating singular, yet he's plural. We also have now it's the Spirit of God hovering over the face of the waters, the penny of the waters. So we have specifically the Ruach here being like, it's kind of confusing. From like a strict Jewish standpoint, it doesn't really make sense that God has a spirit of God, but also is separate from it. And then it's not the Spirit of God speaking, but it's God speaking. But then if you look at the Targums and the other ways that they talk about it, it's the Word of God speaking here, the Memra. It's kind of strange and all over the place. What do you do with all that? The answer, in my opinion, is just the Trinity. It's just multi-personal God, 3 persons, 1 being. The number of persons is revealed in the New Testament, not necessarily as explicitly in the Old Testament, although you do have passages like Isaiah 48:16, which feels very Trinitarian and explicit that there's 3. Because you have the Yahweh, the I am the first and the last. So you have the first and the last, who's the creator of the heaven and the earth, who then is sent by Yahweh Adonai along with the Holy Spirit. So in that passage, you get 3. You get clear divisions in role and status and personhood. Yeah. Anyway, Jack Ray,
What was your Trinity verse from Isaiah?
48:16. We can look at it in a second. Gifted 5 defending line memberships. Thank you again so much, Jack. If I ever seem not excited about it, I am. I really do appreciate it, and the fact that you, out of all of the guys that you could be spending your money on, you're choosing to spend it on me. It's weird.
I'm glad he's here instead of David's live stream. I've been watching David. I've been watching him a while. I'm kind of scared that he might be an Islamophobe. Y'all get those vibes from him?
It does kind of. If you're uncharitable, you might think there's something lurking there beneath the surface. That
sometimes he seems like, I don't know. I don't want to judge people. He seems like an Islamophobe to me.
Oh man, you just gave 3 Muslims memberships. Oh no.
See, no Islamophobes here. We're welcoming. We believe in diversity.
Yeah, you gave the OG. Clips to Goo. That's the first ever Muslim who commented on my channel. You gave the OG Muslim.
His name's Clips to Goo.
Clips to Goo. Yeah, he was debating with me that Al-Qatarbi had the passage on Iblis having the penis and vagina on his thighs and making babies in the marketplace. Yeah. He's like, that didn't happen. That's not in Qurtubi. And I brought up the Arabic, and then pasted the Arabic, and then translated the Arabic, and it's there. Surprise, surprise. Anyway, yeah, no, he's a real one.
Welcome.
He's an interesting fellow. He's a Pakistani who says that all Muslims love Jews. I know that's exactly my reaction.
Bless your
that's
heart.
A wonderful
that's what we
thought.
say here.
Yeah,
that's what we say here for comments like that. We go, bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Yeah.
Peace and blessings be upon you.
Yeah, no, he legitimately said that. He hasn't been here since the flat Earth stream we did, but we did get him to admit that Allah does, like, the Quran does teach a flat Earth, and that he's fine with it, and the Earth is flat. So he was a Pakistani Muslim who believes that all Jews are brothers to Muslims, and that the Earth is flat because the Quran says so.
Have y'all seen the video on X? And it's like Squidward looking out a window at a TV, and it's like flat earthers learning that every single conspiracy is true except for the flat Earth from the Epstein files. It's like looking through all of them. It's like every single one of them's true except the flat Earth. I missed the comment that was just up. What did it say? Was it
IP is reviewing AI slop, and I'm allergic to AI, or I'm AI slopophobic. Yeah. Okay. So let's go through 48 real quick. So you asked about it. And this is like my go-to Trinity verse in the Old Testament. So we have from 12 to 16 as the relevant passage. I mean, all of it is relevant, but this is like the main section I would point to. You do have a section after in 20 where Yahweh has redeemed his servant Jacob. And it's Yahweh who's the savior, but then it's like, and Yahweh is also the rock and all these other things. Yet then immediately into 49, it then goes into the servant songs and like the Messiah and all that stuff. So that's relevant because right before the servant songs, we get this passage. So this is the last passage right before the servant songs. So hear me, O Jacob, even Israel, whom I called. I am he, Anihu, literally in the Hebrew here. And this is actually the thing that Jesus is quoting. If we look in the Septuagint, you'll notice immediately. So let's go through this first, and I'll point to you in the Septuagint. I'll bring it up on screen. So I am he, I'm the first, I'm the last. Also, my hand founded the earth. So maybe I'm the Alpha and the Omega. And my right hand spread out the heavens. So he's the creator of the universe. That's the one talking here. First and the last, the creator. When I call to them, they stand together. Assemble all of you and hear who among them has declared these things. Yahweh loves him. He will carry out his good pleasure on Babylon, and his arm will be against the Chaldeans. So Yahweh is in the third person here. I have spoken. Indeed, I have called him. I have brought him, and he will make his way successful.
Interesting.
Again, third person. He draw near to me. Hear this from the first. I have not spoken in secret. From the first time it took place, I was there. So now, Lord Yahweh, Adonai Yahweh has sent me and his spirit.
That's
Baby.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Come on, baby. Go lay down. Sorry, Chris.
You're
She's
fine.
whining major. Go find
No
another
wonder
human in the house.
Muhammad killed dogs all the time. They interrupt live streams.
Come on, go lay down. It's okay. Go lay down. Okay. Sorry.
Anyway, so we have literally Yahweh Adonai or Adoni. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, Yahweh Adonai is literally sending him along with the Ruach. So
When it talked
Like-
about it in the beginning of the passage, spreading out the heavens, it made me think of Job 9:8. Do you know that one?
yes,
Pull it up
Yeah.
real quick.
That's also the passage where he talks about how the earth is suspended. Oh wait, 9:8.
Yeah.
The earth is suspended and hang on nothing.
Check this out.
Who alone stretches out the heavens and tramples down the waves of the sea. This is about him walking on water.
Yep.
Pretty base.
And then if you go down to 11, where he just, go ahead.
Were he to sweep by me, I would not see him. Were he to move past me, I would not perceive him. This is interesting because it's the same language used in Exodus of the one who walks before Moses.
Passes by, yeah, and in First
And-
Kings.
And it's also used of Jesus as he's walking on the Sea of Galilee.
Only in Mark, which is funnily enough supposed to be the low Christology gospel, but he's
Yep,
the
even
only
though
one
it's
who
the highest
preserves
one.
us to the story of him walking on the water. It says he's walking on the water and he's about to pass them by, and it's
Yep.
parelthane in Greek, which
Yep.
matches the Greek for the
This passage.
Septuagint of this passage. What's interesting is that verb in Hebrew is avar, which is where you get. I was asking very obliquely because I have a rabbi friend, and I don't want to like push Jesus on him and make him mad, but I did. I was like, why is it that whenever there's these theophanies like in Exodus and in Kings, whenever Yahweh appears to Moses and Elijah, he passes by? And he was like, well, what's the word for passes by? I was like, Evad. And he was like, and what's the word for Hebrew? I was like, Ephraim. It's those who pass by. That is the word for Hebrew. And then it makes you think of like the Passover. I don't know. It's really, really interesting that his people are called those who, they're like the little passerbys.
Yeah.
And now we're the Christians, the little Christs.
Oh, there's so many really cool things. Oh no, it's 26. So it's also one of like how did the Bible know this? He stretches out the north over what is formless, and he hangs the earth on nothing. This sentence here is unusually accurate. So like, scientific miracles in the Quran. Well, this is actually a scientific miracle. The Quran's, or the Islamist version, is that the earth is flat and it sits on the back of a whale, and there's 7 earths stacked on top of each other like pancakes. The Bible has the earth floating in space, and this is the only ancient mythology that has this, like, period, that I'm aware of. I have not seen any religion that has the earth literally suspended in space.
Okay, that's good and all, but does it say that sperm is developed between the backbone and the ribs? Because otherwise, it's probably full of crap.
All right, let me show you the Septuagint real quick, because you're going to be interested in the Greek
Ego
right here.
Amy.
Ego me. But, I thought it would be Hoon if Jesus was quoting Exodus 3:14. Wouldn't it be Hoon and not Ego me? Well, what if he's not quoting Exodus and he's actually quoting Isaiah? And he's declaring to be this Ego me. Especially because the Greek of the New Testament matches the Greek of Isaiah closer than it does Exodus 3:14.
I think I told you that story before, Chris. I was reading the New Testament in Hebrew, and I got to that part because I was all excited. I'm like, I'll see Ehya right there.
Oh,
And
no, it's Anihu.
yeah, it's Anihu, and I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, because in English, a lot of English translations, it's capitalized, and so you think, oh wow, that's a big deal, and it must be like calling back to that one particular moment because they capitalize usually that as well.
Right.
And then I saw Anihu, and I was like, wait a minute, does this mean what I thought it means? And obviously it does, but just not in the way
I am
that yeah.
Now, this is something interesting to point out to your viewers is a lot of times with like an ancient Semitic language like this, even in Greek, you can drop your copulative verb, and so this is just I he.
Mm.
Mhm.
There's not even an am. It's just I
Mhm.
he, which is interesting with the Trinity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No,
I
you get a
he.
lot of
That's what it says.
yeah, you get a lot of really interesting stuff with
Ani
the
hu.
the fact that God just is kind of insane. And that's also a scientific claim because you have to have an unmoved mover. You have to have something that just is, and his name means I am. I just am. Like I don't have an origin. I just am. That's pretty based. It's pretty incredible. Jack Ray brings it's funny that supposedly dark matter, dark energy make up 95% of the observable gravitational effects we see in space. Yes, which is actually why I would lean towards either the electric universe model for a stable state young Earth universe. If all of the redshift we observe is not from movement but from youthfulness and activity, that makes sense to me. And that would also explain a lot of the energy that's actually electromagnetic effects. So we see Birkeland currents all over the universe, and Birkeland currents are just plasmic filaments that are rotating and counter. It's basically coaxial cables in space of electricity. It's actually how the Earth is connected to the sun. It's also why whenever solar wind hits us, it goes around us in a certain pattern it does. It's because it follows the Birkeland currents whenever it hits us. That being said, you also have a really interesting thing with, do you know about matter and antimatter and their interaction whenever they touch?
Doesn't matter to me.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
It's a typical Judaizer joke.
I do not, Chris. To
They
honestly
annihilate.
answer that question.
They cease to exist. They go back to being energy. So all things you observe on the planet, on the universe, has a little bit of antimatter in it. If you were to measure a banana, that banana would be filled with antimatter. It'd also be filled mostly with matter. What we actually touch is matter for the most part. If antimatter and matter are touching, they will annihilate back into energy. But for energy to turn into matter, it has to produce both an equal amount of matter and antimatter at the same time. So every physics experiment we've ever done with energy into matter always produced equal amounts of both. And then whenever they go back, so it's like the law of conservation of energy. That's how it works, is that it produces both matter and antimatter. The universe is 99.99999% matter. But energy can only create matter and antimatter at 50-50 ratios. So why is there this massive imbalance between matter and antimatter? The Big Bang somehow, creation, and whatever you want to call creation, whatever cosmological medal you use, if there's no God that dictated it, somehow blind science, blind chance-based necessity created matter to antimatter at a 99-to-1 ratio. We have no idea why. And it's really closer to like a 9 million to, or like 9,999,999 to 1 ratio. We have no idea why. So not only is dark matter and dark energy supposedly interacting, like accounting for all the gravitational stuff we see instead of electricity, even though electricity is like 10 to the 38 times more stronger than gravity at those distant, or at short distances. At longer distances, gravity is stronger. But electricity is like electromagnetism is significantly stronger. But they are using only gravity because they only have gravitational based modeling in their current cosmology. They don't account for electricity because they don't think electricity can actually affect at that far of distances, because they discount all of the electrical activity that we see, such as Birkeland currents and everything else. But I'm going down a deep rabbit hole that no one actually knows about or cares about. Anyway, it's super weird that we don't know what's happening in the universe, and we have this massive imbalance between matter and antimatter that just happened, and no one knows why. But if it didn't happen that way, the universe wouldn't exist. It would have annihilated back into itself eventually. So the fact that we exist, the fact that we're stable, and parts of us aren't just disappearing as we walk through the air, which would be kind of terrifying, that's kind of weird. Anyway, it's my little science tangent again. The LXXWs are nonstop. How do you know there isn't an invisible whale if the Earth is on right now?
That's what I'm saying. He's saying all this nerdy stuff about beryllium spheres or whatever. It could be a whale. You don't know.
Yes, they're. Yeah, me and Jack are gonna just. I'll just talk to you offline, Jack, if you want to talk in the Discord. But it's pretty interesting. I think I and you are the only one who cares about it at the moment. Richard Dawkins assured me nature just does that.
Richard Dawkins.
Oh yeah, no, that's there's like a list of like 50 things that I have in my book on it that obviously couldn't have happened by chance. Obviously couldn't have happened. Most forms of evolution, because there's actually 7 forms of evolution that you have to accept in order to be an atheist. It's not just biological evolution. You have to accept chemical evolution, that there's actually heavy elements that were formed naturally, that there is planetary stellar evolution. So you have stellar and terrestrial evolution, that accretion disk can actually form stars and can actually form terrestrial bodies, which I don't think either is actually true, personally. You also have to accept abiogenesis and biological evolution, but that itself is a massive hurdle you just can't easily get past. Then you have to accept both macro and microevolution. So there's, and I think there's one or other one I'm forgetting at the moment, but there's so many levels to the evolution that you have to accept. And you also have to accept that the Big Bang actually happened, and the laws of physics are not intrinsic to matter, because if they were, it couldn't exist. So you have to turn off the laws of physics for a little bit in order for the Big Bang to happen. Then you immediately have to turn it on, or else everything ceases to exist. So you can't have electromagnetic radiation. Well, you can't have EM or strong force, and you can't have gravity at the first couple moments of existence during the inflation. Whether you do inflationary model or like standard default Big Bang, doesn't matter. You can't have it turned on, otherwise you're too much matter and energy all in one place that it couldn't expand. You just can't get past it. It's too strong. So what they say is it didn't exist for a little bit. But the problem is, how did it not exist, and then how did it turn on? If it's intrinsic to matter, you would expect it to always exist. If it's intrinsic to the universe's existence, then you would expect it to always be there. If it's not intrinsic, you would expect it to maybe turn off at some point, and it never does. How? Anyway. Yeah, I could literally do hours on just ranting about the stupidity of the scientific models that we accept on blind faith, but anyway. So, anywho. Trinity.
Anywho.
Did you just say anywho? For those who didn't catch that, he just said a phrase in Hebrew. I am he, but he said it like anywho. Anywho, back to the topic.
Genesis 1. Okay, Trinity. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. This is pretty cool. As I was just talking about a little bit, it seems like whenever God created the universe, the universe itself didn't have the laws of physics working. It was temporarily, the laws of physics didn't exist for a moment. God then says, "Let there be light." I think this is actually God turning on physics. Because what is light? Light is not visible light. Light is everything. Anything that has matter produces light. It might not be invisible light spectra, but it has light. Your body, you are glowing right now. It sounds like I'm complimenting a pregnant woman, but no, you're literally glowing.
It's just Maybelline.
Yeah. Right. Maybe it's Mabe. Yeah. You are glowing in multiple spectra, but you're mostly glowing in infrared, which is basically heat. Heat is actually just light. You're also probably glowing in a little bit of microwave. Hopefully not too much. And you're also probably slightly glowing in that very little tiny band there. Anyway, everything glows. My computer is glowing. My keyboard is glowing. My mug is glowing. Not worshiping it. It's just glowing on its own.
The vegetables in a Chinese garden.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have a cow mug. And the tail is the handle. It's very cute. It has little feet, and then it has a udders on the inside. So scientifically advanced cow mug. It's my moog, my cow juice.
I'm gonna say some nerd stuff for a second.
Okay.
First of all, I'm going to use the word myth to describe this, but I'm not saying necessarily that it's not historical. When I'm using the word myth, I mean it in the sense of a story that helps to frame an identity and answer questions like who are we, why are we here, and what is the purpose. Pull up the Hebrew again. I'm going to be looking at it.
Okay.
And so if you look at the second verse here, you can kind of see some problems. Hayet tohu vavohu. So the word tohu vavohu, Robert Alter translates it welter and waste because he wants to kind of capture the play on words that's happening, tohu vavohu. But that same phrase is used later, like in the prophets, whenever Yahweh is talking about judging the nations and everything is being destroyed. And it's kind of like it goes into tohu vavohu. And my wife and I actually use this phrase for whenever there's just chaos, like when the children are screaming and everything's falling apart. And my wife will turn to me and be like, there's so much tohu vavohu. But it's like, think of it like uncreated chaos, kind of. And then there's Hoshech al Panay Tehom. So there's darkness, and then it's over the deep. And these three themes are going to be recurring themes throughout the rest of the Bible, where you can see God working in his creative power to subdue desert, water, and darkness. And pay attention whenever he does something like, I don't know, split waters, because it means a creation event is happening and it's something really important. Or bringing light to darkness, or whenever there's fecundity in the desert, like manna, when there's food in a desert. And you can see these same themes played on even in the New Testament. So let me talk about where these themes pop up just real fast. I mean, you'll see it over and over in the Psalms, but like the splitting of the Jordan, the splitting of the Red Sea. In the New Testament, when it talks about Jesus' baptism and the heavens split open, there was a strong thematic connection in ancient Jewish thought between the Shemaim and the Maim. I mean, you can hear it in the words. Waters and sky are related concepts. And he creates the sky by splitting the waters. And so whenever the sky is splitting at the baptism event, it's the author and God himself letting us know, hey, this is like a new creation type event. And you see with Noah surviving through the flood, right? He's surviving decreation like it is here. And the dove comes down as the Holy Spirit on Jesus. And it's letting you know this is kind of like a new creation event, just like with Noah and the ark. And then he goes, where does he go for his temptation? Into the desert. And he stays in the desert for a period of 40 years. And the
40 days. But yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, but it's like an
40
echo.
years. Yeah.
It's an echo of that type of
Typology.
the Israelites being in the desert for 40 years. In 40, that number is closely related to times of trial. And actually, the word Mayim, the letter Mem, so each letter in Hebrew represents a number. That particular letter represents the number 40. And so 40 is closely tied to times of trial. What's interesting is I'm just going everywhere. I'm sorry, but this is all tied to new creation, and the defeat of these things is tied to new creation. And whenever I had my first child, I realized something. A woman is pregnant for 40 weeks with a baby. And then what does the baby see the minute the baby comes into the world? This was something I had never thought about before, but whenever my wife was having her first baby, a lot of times on the movies, a woman will go, oh, my water broke. And it's like, trickling. Like when the water broke with this baby, it was like a wave came out and like flushed through the room. And I was like, I know that's gross, but think of this in terms of mythical creation and chaos and everything. So the baby comes out and sees light and then gets milk, like the land of milk and honey, but it's the nourishment in the desert. There's light coming. The waters have been split, and it's an act of new creation. And so I think those themes are all through the Bible, and I think they're also like in our lives with the birth of a new human.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's super
that's
based.
pretty cool stuff.
You have a similar thing with the Exodus itself, with the seed is planted in Egypt. You have Abraham going down there, and then obviously Joseph. Joseph is planted as the seed of life, and Joseph is one of the longest types of Christ in the Bible. He is then in Egypt. Sorry, my wife entered the room. Got distracted. He's planted in Egypt, and then life is growing, and the embryo is developing. They get to around 1 million people. They go through labor, they go through hardship, and then they go through birthing pains. So there is literal pains that are happening in the plagues and also in the
Birthing
hard
pains.
slavery.
That's a profound statement too. Yeah, thinking
Yeah.
of eschatology. Sorry, but keep going.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then you have the birthing pains of Israel as they're in Egypt, getting ready to leave, and they also have the pain of not wanting to leave. Israel was still wanting the comfort of the womb and not wanting to face the difficulties of this world outside of the womb. So they're struggling to stay in the womb. Most of them don't want to leave, but the leader, the will of the community wants to leave and wants to enter into the world, enter into freedom from the womb to become its own person. So you have Israel in Egypt leaving. The way that they leave Egypt is by crossing through the Red Sea. Well, they don't just cross through the Red Sea, they cross through the Red Sea at night. They don't just cross through the Red Sea, they cross through the Red Sea with two parted waves on the side at night in a dark. So they're going through this dark, wet, damp tunnel, being chased by enemies, like being pushed out of their situation into new life, into the promised land where they will grow into a mighty kingdom.
But how
So
were
you have
they
this,
able to
like,
see when it was
birth and
dark,
delivery.
Chris?
There's a pillar of fire following behind
Oh,
them.
there's light there, huh?
There's light there. Yeah. Yes. So you have Israel literally being birthed out of the womb of Egypt into the promised land. And then you have Jesus from the promised land being delivered there, in going into Egypt to like incubate and then coming back out of it to then go back and be raised as a full man. And there's so much just general typology you can get out of that passage and those ideas. It's kind of insane.
We could end the stream right there, you know.
Chase, thank you for the $2. W Beard Hikmah inbound. I'm assuming that is for Steven. Yes. Yeah. It's boys' night. Get out.
What are you, gay? Staring at your wife like that? That's gay.
Yeah, my wife walks in the room. I can't help it. Anyway, so yes, super base. There's so much awesome richness you can get from the Bible. Like it's as deep as you let it be. Which is really the problem that most Christians are facing right now, is they're not letting the Bible actually speak to them. They're not interacting with it. The closest they get is whatever is said before them whenever they do decide to go to church. That's obviously not enough. The Bible is so deep, it is impossible to reach the end of it. It is a wet, damp, dark tunnel that you can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into to enter into the promised land of the wisdom of God. Literally, the divine wisdom that is able to be bestowed onto us through edification by the Holy Spirit. We have God in us, living with us, breathing this to us if we just let him. And we just don't.
You know what is awesome too, though, is there's enough just on the surface level stuff that there's already enough there. You know what I mean? That's what's so cool about it, is
right.
It's good enough just if you just take it for what it says, very plain and simple. But you could endlessly go further and further into it. I mean, words and letters and sentences and matches here and there, and you'll never run out of those things. But at the same time, you never need to do that either to get the whole idea of it. It's very cool.
It's super based, man. There's the Hikmah.
We're gonna go 2 hours and we'll only be on the second verse, just like you did with the first verse last time.
Yeah. Ironically, I taught Genesis 1 to a disciple of mine. I'm discipling a few people. And me and her name's Lisa, she's based. We went through about 7 hours on Genesis 1 through 2. And then we finished the rest of Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 in about 4 hours. So I think we spent a solid 3 weeks going over Genesis 1 and 2. Lisa is the based. She is indeed. She's been on the channel once. She asked a lot of questions on Islam. It was a fun stream. Anyway, so we're on the 3rd verse, though. You know, we made it so far. God said, "Let there be light." So again, I would say this is actually God turning on the universe, like turning on physics, especially because there's a lot of electrophysical interaction with electromagnetism that is happening around you all the time that you're not even aware of. Like right now, you are being induced by the planet to be electrically attracted to the ground. Now you're also gravitationally attracted. There are some people who don't think gravity is a separate force, that gravity is a form of electromagnetism. I'm not that far into that rabbit hole. I could see it being a thing, but there's some difficulties with that position, like Faraday cages. You don't start floating inside of a Faraday cage. So if gravity was strictly electrical means of dipole interactions and attraction through induction, which is a lot of big fancy words, but basically all of your electrons are orbiting your you're about to say your cells, your atoms. And whenever you have a magnetic current that's strong enough, you can actually force it to go in elliptical format instead of a circular. When it goes too elliptical, you start getting poles, like a north and south pole. You know, whenever you stick magnets together, you can't stick opposite ends. You can't stick the same end. You have to stick opposite ends for them to attract. Basically, what happens in induction is the poles on all of your electrons are spinning the same way towards the same goal. And if it's strong enough, you can get them to really line up, even if it's not a ferromagnet like iron. Iron, once you magnetize it, it stays magnetic for a while. Just about anything can be magnetized if it has enough electricity going through it. You're probably going to die before you hit that with a human. But there might be like subtle, slight, like we all might slightly have an elliptical, and that maybe that is a form of gravity. Who knows? Lots of debates, lots of theories. Then you also have like the quantum gravity people. Like you have lots of different perspectives on it. But if you want to say that there is a more influence of electromagnetism in our universe, which I do think there is personally, you could say that this is literally God saying, "Let there be light," and turning on physics to then start organizing the matter. So before he created the matter, and it didn't have the properties of matter, it just existed in this this dead state, this literal heat death, 0 Kelvin state. It just was. There was no energy being involved. There's no motion. There's no radiation. There's none of it. There's no beta decay. It just was. And then the earth was formless and void in darkness. And then he said, "Let there be light." And then all of a sudden there was light, and then there is energy, and there's everything else. So I do think that there might be some like pseudo scientific claim of the Bible here, where God is actually going through the order of creation in a way you would expect if you extract light to be literally everything and not just visible light. But you could also say God then started shining himself, because God the Father is described as intense, brilliant light that you can't really perceive or see.
I was going to ask you, Chris, if you thought there was any do you have any thoughts about this possibly also mentioning maybe like the light of Messiah or
Like the
God?
rabbinic view.
Mhm.
Yeah. 0 Kelvin reformed Christians triggered. Kelvin. Okay. Anyway,
Like not in the
no,
sense that they do it,
right,
because of
right,
this being pre-sun and pre-stars, it's
right,
some kind of light like you were mentioning,
right,
like maybe like some sort of spiritual or divine light as well.
right. So it could be literally Yahweh.
Mhm.
Whichever person of Yahweh we're talking about could just be the Father. Could be all three. The Holy Spirit's described as fire, which is a light. and a dove descending as light. So like this glowing dove. So we have like the Holy Spirit is described as basically a source of light, and then the sun glows brightly whenever he's transfigured on the mountain,
Mhm.
and then also in Revelation he has light protruding out of him. So you could say it's the light of the full glory of Christ. You could say it's the light of the full glory of the Holy Spirit. You could say it's the light of the full glory of the Father, or you could say it's the light of all three, or you could just say it's light of the matter, or
Mm.
all of above. Like
Yeah.
you don't really have to limit it, but the thing I definitely want to focus in on is the fourth day. He makes the sun and the moon and the stars, and people always point out like, okay, well, this is not real. It couldn't have happened that way because the stars were made on day 4 and light was made on day 1. That's stupid. Where did the light come from? I'm like, light is literally everything and everywhere. Light is the most miraculous, strange substance. We have no idea what it even is, other than the fact that it has so many unique properties that we can't even fathom. Like,
Well,
we don't even know what type
on a
of
Big
matter it
Bang
is.
model, it's like high energy exploding outward is the first thing to exist.
Right, just literal
It's
light.
light. It's just
glow.
literally an
Yeah,
explosion
yeah,
of light. Yeah.
right. And that somehow becomes stars and planets. But again, yeah, you start from pure light into stars and planets. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. You also do have the cosmic microwave background, as Jack said. Which again, light everywhere, everything, light's always there. You can't escape it. Which is pretty cool. If we could see all the spectrum of light, we would be infinitely blinded because our eyes emit light, which is kind of weird to think about. Your eyes are literally glowing and shooting out light outward, which is why some predators can see the spectra of light that your eyes emit. So whenever you look at them, they can see you, even if you can't see them, and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Daniel, Pikachu can see me even when I can't see him.
Kind of checks out.
Predetermined to diss Calvin, I'm shook. Yeah, dude, the Bible's so cool. And McCain brought up Hebrews 1:3 with Jesus being the exact like radiance and glory of God. Yeah, it's really deep. As I said earlier, the Bible is as deep as you let it be.
And speaking of its deepness, I want to talk about. So remember how I talked about water, darkness, and desert. You see, in the first 3 days, God defeats each of these forms of chaos. He defeats darkness with light, and then you're going to see in the whatever the day is, the next day after that. Oh, I guess the second day, he's going to defeat the waters by splitting them, and then on the third day, he defeats the desert by having plants crop up. And then if you make like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you'll see where he populates the realms that he has tamed. So the realm of light and darkness, he does the heavenly bodies, and then with the splitting of the waters, he does birds and fish, and then with the desert that he's conquered with the fruits and vegetables and everything, he makes animals and humans.
Yep. It's pretty base.
Yeah. Oh, and it's kind of analogous to this. They had a 7-day ceremony for temples. And on the 7th day, you would set the image inside of the temple to rule and reign.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. There's so much cool stuff here, man. Somebody needs to write a book on it. Jesus. Anyway. Yeah. There's a lot.
I think Unseen Realm goes into some of what I just said. I don't remember where I read about it. John Walton does in like his commentaries. So if you get like his Bible commentary, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I don't remember that in Unseen Realm, but I did skip a couple chapters towards the middle. So
you don't remember like the desert and Azazel and all that?
Oh, you don't have to cuss, Christian.
Kiss my Azazel.
No, I don't think I read that portion of it. But I also took it out on a loan from the library and it was due back, and I didn't feel like extending it, so I just returned it and then didn't recheck it out later. But did not quite finish it. I was doing it because someone told me to read it like years ago, way before I started the ministry or even started writing. So probably should reread it at this point. Yeah. But speaking of water, water also has extremely unique properties. So we have light and water being the two most unique things in existence. And they're also the first things that are focused on and mentioned in the Bible, as you brought up. But water has so many unique properties, it's kind of insane. And yet it's also the like foundational chemical used for life. Like there's 4 chemicals that could be used for life. Water just so happens to be the most special, where it is a universal solvent, which is kind of crazy, like it can dissolve everything. It also is a perfect insulator and resistor, and also a perfect conductor if it has salt in it. So it goes from being perfectly inhibiting electrical activity, and it can also perfectly conduct electrical activity just by the presence or absence of salts, and it can retain information, and no one knows how. So this is one of the weird things. There was a team of scientists that put DNA into water, like an encoded strip of DNA into water. Then they put a blank strip of DNA into that water after the original DNA had been removed, and it re-encoded that same DNA onto the blank strip.
Oh, wow.
No idea how. We still don't know.
Like a copy machine?
Basically. But water just retained the information somehow. And water also has a self-purifying mechanism called the exclusion zone, where it goes from basically, you know how ice is the hexadecimal structure, where it's just a lattice of hexagons? Like a 2-layered hexagon lattice is what ice is.
Sure.
Per layer. Okay. The EZ, the exclusionary zone layer of ice, before it turns into ice, is just 1 layer, hexadecimal sheets, not hexadecimal, breaking my brain. Has a bunch of hexagons and has the oxygen connections in it. Is just a flat layer. Instead of it being 2-dimensional structure, it's just a 1-dimensional sliding layer, and it builds up millions of atoms thick at a time, which is pretty incredible. And whenever it does that, it forces out the dirt. So we actually figured out the way that water cleans, because it has self-cleaning mechanisms within it. So water, whenever it's going through and going from water to frozen, it creates this exclusionary zone that then pushes debris outside of it, so then the ice becomes purer. So the ice automatically cleans itself as it forms, and then it cleans the water, it dilutes the water whenever it melts. So water is self-managing, self-cleaning. And if you have hydrophilic or hydrophobic material, specifically hydrophobic material inside of water, it will naturally create these easy layers around it, and then create laminar flow, which is like flow through a pipe. Like your veins use laminar flow to pump blood through your body effectively. So water naturally has this mechanism to move automatically if there's certain materials in it. And it responds very well to infrared radiation, so heat. So your body just so happens to be the perfect vessel to make water as effective as possible for transport, for cleaning, for maintenance. And it makes your blood pump more effectively. Also makes trees possible, like cedar trees. Cedar trees, they have so much weight of the water going up to the leaves. It makes no sense because their capillary veins don't have the ability to actually push it naturally. But somehow this laminar flow helps the process and helps the water ascend to the trees. So there's lots of really neat properties of water that allows life to exist. There's neat properties of electricity that allows life to exist. And they also work together to allow life to exist inside of us in ways that the vast majority of us aren't even aware of. And it can hold a charge. Water in this easy state is creates what's called bulk water. So it's H3O. And then the easy layer is negative. So whenever it's in that state, it's actually electrically charged, and it's a plasma. So water naturally enters into a plasmic state whenever the sun shines on it. It just does. And we have all these oceans that are slightly positively charged and then slightly negatively charged for the things, and the fish use it to navigate the planet. And it's like, it's kind of insane how deep it actually goes. Yeah, they do have capillary action. Just the for those large of trees, the capillary action like mathematically shouldn't work to actually get the water up the cedar trees. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
only
we use
thing
laminar
worse,
flow.
the only thing worse than Judaizers is nerds.
We use laminar
My
flow and
limited
airbending.
experience with laminar flow is that cool experiment you can do where you get a hose and you get a bunch of straws. Have you ever seen that? And you have the water
It
go
flows
through all
backwards.
the straws, and then when it comes out, it's like it looks like a glass tube.
Hey, chat. Am I the only person that has never heard of laminator flows?
I am an engineer, to be fair. I was classically trained in 2 different universities on engineering. So I'm not just a nerd, I'm a trained nerd, excuse you.
I can make an automatic watermelon farm with redstone on my house.
Anyway, that all to be said, there's like dozens of properties of water that's entirely unique to it, and without it, we couldn't exist, including like ice being less dense so it floats. That's a requirement for life, otherwise all the fish would die whenever it froze.
Oh.
And glaciers use it to purify the water. So big chunks break off, they make it all the way down to the middle of the ocean, and then it purifies it, and it does that all the time. It's pretty cool. Anyway. you go your stuff that makes me feel informed by comparison. Just go through a bunch of legal code real quick.
Let's talk about the definition of a person.
I had that debate today. Because I was like, yeah, there's 3 persons inside of God. Or I was like, 3 persons, 1 being. And they're like, oh, well, person doesn't mean that would be people. Like,
I meant in a dumb legal sense. Like, person could be a corporation or a limited liability company or an estate or a trust.
it was definitely a dumb sense. It wasn't legal, but yeah. Anyway, you want to go through some legalities while I go pee?
Sure.
All right.
This is where I should also go pee, and then let's see what Christian can come up with on his own.
All right. I'll try to
No,
start
I
a cult
actually-
while y'all are gone.
I can't because I don't know how to mute, and I don't want to take all the viewers to my own personal live stream while this one's going on, because I usually just be like, hey Chris, can you mute me? I'll be right back. But when I touch my screen, nothing happens. So I don't. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, that just says I can. Oh, stop mic or cam. I don't want to mess with things because I don't have any faith that I'll be able to fix it if I goof it up. Anyway, Christian, tell us something legal, like legalism. You know, us Judaizers, we love that.
You love having to follow laws, so let me give some to you. Now, I'll say this: you can sue people for a tort. There's a tort called intentional infliction of emotional distress. It's an intentional tort, and I think if someone is just going on and on about nerd stuff and they know that they're bothering everybody and that they're causing emotional distress, I think you might have a cause of action against somebody.
I think that sounds pretty solid. What's how much for the retainer? Oh crap, he's back.
7,000 shekels.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, that's not that much.
Have you ever seen Canadian Bacon?
Yeah.
Like with John
Yeah.
Candy, and the cop pulls him over in Canada and he gives him a ticket. And he's like, that's going to be, I don't remember what he says. It's like $500 or $20 American.
Yeah.
After he panics for a second.
Central Dawa, that everybody's favorite court jester one time. I had a discussion with him because
Oh, really?
uh he was doing this whole rant about Deuteronomy. I forget which part in Deuteronomy it is about, like if a man seduces a woman and she's a virgin, and it names the price that the man has to pay for violating her. And his whole argument, first of all, was that God, the God of the Bible, is pro uh, that word that I guess I don't think you can say on
Mhm.
YouTube.
Grape
Um,
soda.
yeah, but then his other claim was, and to make it worse, look, here's how many shekels of silver you have to pay, and he pulls out his wallet and he goes $13. And so I got on, I was like, it's not modern Israeli shekels. This is not the same value.
Man, that guy's
Back in
dumber
those
than a bag
days,
of bricks. I knew
yeah,
he was
and
going to
he
say
and
something
he
stupid.
and
Did he
he
threaten to
kept
kill
like
you after you corrected him?
no, but it was like seven
Okay.
lies. He just kept changing the subject. I said, hold on, real quick, we got to go
Oh
back to this
man.
because that's your whole point. And he ended up kicking me, but it's the equivalent, I think, that of like a 2 years salary or 1 year's salary. So still, again, the purpose of that is because and again, he said it's that God is pro that act. And I said, well, why does it use the word violate? And then you have to make good on it. You have to make up for what you've done, and you have to marry the person. And with people who make disingenuous arguments, or if I mean, I I hope it's that. I hope he's not that stupid, but
Hope
I'm
away.
I'm not, I'm not willing to lean one way or the other at this point because I think they're both viable options. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know how I got on that. Oh, legal stuff? We're talking? No, probably not. I don't know. There was my tangent for the for
I
the stream.
believe
There's
the
my
topic was
contribution.
Genesis 1.
Yeah. Sorry, Chris. Now that I've gone and done my thing, would you mute me so I can go do my other thing, and then I'll be
Yeah,
right back.
yeah. Okay. So, this coffee mug, it's my Moog mug. I'm not sure what the actual ounces is, but it's like 2 servings of my normal serving of tea. It's quite hefty.
Those
Like I don't think
eyeballs
like
look like boobies on there.
it is large. Um, by far the large, well, not the largest mug I've ever owned. I could go get the largest mug I ever owned, but it would give away where I live. But I have like a full pint. So
It comes in pints.
oh, it comes in point. Um. Anyway, yeah, pretty large. Highly recommend it. You can get that from the Dug Dug Mug Mug if you are so inclined. I don't actually think he's still selling them right now, but anyway, Genesis 1. So, and God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and there was evening, and there was morning one day. So, God has to be accounting for time in some way, because we do use the literal one day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, and morning, evening. So it uses very specific terms that would indicate time passing. And you could say, oh, well, God ordained it. He planned it to be 24 hours for a day. It might be 24 hours for the day, even without the star or the moon or the sun existing, even without the earth rotating about a star's light. He could still just make it 24 hours. Or you could say, oh, this is the day age view, where it's actually metaphorical ages and it's just ages of time. I don't think that view actually works that well whenever you consider the implications of certain ages, such as day 3, where he creates plants. Um, there's plants for an entire age before there's a sun. So if you want to take it as a metaphorical thing, then how are there plants that require lights to stay alive for ages of time before God creates the sun? And you can say, oh, well, it's just God's light that is caring for the plants. Um, sure, we're going to have that in the new earth. There's no reason why that couldn't have happened in the old earth. But I do think that is a bit more of a stretchy position rather than just taking it as the plants were literally only there for like a day, so therefore they didn't wither over like centuries or millennia or thousands, like tens of thousands of years, some people say. But yeah, so that would be my view against the day age. I don't think it is as tenable for the order of events that's described. But if you take it more of a literal of order of events that's described, I don't think that actually has any problems, like any real problems with it, other than, oh, well, it's light before stars. I'm like, just nonsense. Anyway, let me unmute Steven before I forget, before he's just muted for 30 minutes. Yeah. Anyways. So that would be my view for that. Feel free to call me an idiot as you want. God called the light day, and there's morning and evening one day. Then God said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse, and it was so. This is also translated as the firmament. Now you could say, oh, this is literally just atmosphere. It doesn't have to be a physical object or like the dome model. If you want to take the dome model, I don't know if you need to say that it didn't rain. You could just say that there was 100% humidity, and that's why it didn't rain. If you want to say it didn't rain until the flood, which there is a reading you could make that it didn't rain until the flood, but then you have to deal with other problems, which again is why I say like there's a lot of problems on every side.
Mm-hmm.
The main problem I would see for it not raining until the flood is poop. And that might sound like a joke. I'm being very serious. In New York City, it's actually a challenge to manage poop because of all the pigeons and rats and all the disease that comes with poop. And they don't have enough rain, and there's no plants or anything because it's just giant concrete. They have to constantly be scrubbing and cleaning all the poop off of the environment because there's no rain to naturally clean it. People who move away from a city move to the rural areas, and like my parents own a real estate business, and they were trying to sell a house during migration season, and we happened to live in the area in the south where all the grackles went to pass down to go into like Florida and everywhere else. So we had like millions of birds flying over, and it was just the loudest, most chaotic thing you can imagine. Every inch of the city was covered in bird for a couple of days. And in that process, as you can imagine, someone who's never experienced that, it's poop literally everywhere all the time. But we also rained all the time where we lived. So like next week, it's going to be fine because all the poop is going to get washed away. But she was freaking out like, how's my kid going to play in the yard or any of that? And it's like the rain will just handle. The rain gets rid of poop. Surprise, surprise. But if it didn't rain for over 1,000 years, how did all the poop get managed?
You know, Chris,
And
could it be a worth considering that because I don't know if I've always read it this way, but I don't know if this is like a thing that's taken this way, but that after the flood is when obviously the recorded lifespans are shorter, and God also says that meat can be eaten, animals can be eaten.
right.
So if we were to say that before the flood, and also I think we see this with like genetically, with humans being more or less imperfect, that things like interbreeding amongst the family didn't cause the types of problems that it would today. So
Mhm.
what if there was in that time, what if because the quality of the food and the quality of the body system, could that possibly allow for a lot less defecating because the body would be utilizing a, mu- the maximum amount from the food? It's just
I mean,
does that does
you
that seem plausible?
you could make that case. You would still, because they're only eating fiber at that point.
Hmm.
You still need to poop. You can't process insoluble fibers. So unless you're
Hmm.
saying that the plants and fruit and vegetables back then didn't have any or had very minimal insoluble fibers and it was all just soluble fibers, maybe. But even then, I think that would be a stretch. Like you would have to basically whitewash biology in that time period to a degree that I think that some young Earth creationists do that I don't actually agree with.
Okay.
I don't think you have to,
Mhm.
but with that, so like McCain asked, like, how could without the water cycle, how could habitats even maintain life? That's really not that difficult. You talk about like greenhouses where they just have a fine mist all the time. If you've
Mhm.
ever lived in the South, if you ever lived in an extreme humidity, hot climate, like Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, even, but Florida is not actually as humid as some of the slightly northern places there. When you get to 100% humidity and like 100 degrees, the atmosphere is so wet that it just starts to mist. I
Mhm.
don't know if you've experienced misting, but it's not raining, but the entire atmosphere is water.
Yeah, I
It's a
mean, you
very
get
trippy
your
experience.
clothes even get as wet as they would
Yes.
if it was raining.
Yes. If you walk through the atmosphere, you literally get soaked.
Mhm.
So,
Guys,
and
I
even
gotta go. I'm too tired. I mean, I love talking about poop and everything, but I'm about to pass out. But y'all keep going. Let me know how the Bible ends, okay?
will do.
I'll see y'all.
See you, Christian.
Man. Anyway, so if you've been in the South, or anywhere that's like super, super high humidity and hot, because the heat also increases the amount of water the atmosphere can hold at one time. So
Mhm.
very hot, very wet is significantly more wet than cold and very wet. So if you have a warmer climate that's extremely wet and extremely humid, it's going to be watered.
Mhm.
Everything outside is covered, drenched, soaking wet during the night, but that starts at like 8 p.m. in really hot
Mhm.
days in the South whenever it's 100% humidity.
Well, I
Like
don't know if
walking,
you've
you
ever
get
seen them, Chris,
soaked.
but you can make like you can get like like a fish bowl basically, and make
Right,
a little ecosystem in there that you just cork and it'll live for if you do it correctly, it'll just live indefinitely.
right. Yeah. What about the dinosaurs? I don't see a problem with the dinosaurs. I mean, there's reports of people still seeing dinosaurs up until the 1600s. So who knows when they actually went extinct from the young Earth view? Like maybe they were alive 300, 400 years ago. We
I
have
think
engravings of it. Like Bishop Bell's tomb is pretty shocking. It looks like two
mm,
sauropod dinosaurs fighting, and one of them has a spiked tail. And we found recently bones of a sauropod dinosaur with a spiked tail. So, and we found those bones in the area where the tomb was made. That's in the 1500s, and it has
and then
them
is it
whacking
Saint
their necks
George
together.
who's mm,
Yeah, his cathedral.
that slayed the dragon in England? Is that the
Oh
one?
yeah, yeah,
And there's the
yeah.
depiction of him on the horse with the
And then the dragon has its tail wrapped around the horse's leg, and
mm,
that's an actual thing that I believe is Draconis, like that dinosaur type, and it's named that because it looks like a dragon, which is pretty interesting. But if you look
mhm,
up the dragon dinosaur, there is I think its Latin name is Draconis, but that it used its tail. We can tell from its bones. It used its tail as a strangulation device, and it would wrap around in that way. It would use it to hold it to then bite. And the dragons that they're depicted being slain by medieval people do the same thing. So maybe they were actually witnessing these animals, and like dinosaurs actually lived until super recently. There's also a bunch of dinosaurs that we've dug up that smell like dead bodies. That's weird. They were explicitly described as cadaver smells, and it was
wow.
pungent, according to the teams that dug it up. So literally, there are some fossil sites we found where I don't know the prevalence of this. I've not found statistics on the prevalence, but I know of at
Mhm.
least like 10 sites that had dead smell coming off of the carcasses of these dinosaurs that they were digging up. So, yeah, anyway. I don't really think dinosaurs is a problem. Human dead smell. No, just dead body smell in general. But yeah. So they still stink. They still have pliable red blood cells or platelets. They had partial protein DNA, if I remember correctly. that was not fully degraded, and like all those things shouldn't exist after like a couple thousand years, let alone like 89 million years or something. Uh, it obviously shouldn't exist. So then they were trying to scramble to explain how we had soft tissue inside of dinosaur bones for millions of years when it shouldn't exist after thousands. But yeah, again, I'll eventually do a stream on all of the evidence for both sides. I
Mm.
again lean towards the young Earth because I think it explains the evidence better. But there are things in the young Earth position that don't really make sense, like the magnetic lines on the ocean floor. Um, that's hard to explain. Even from a flood paradigm, that's still hard to explain. How in the world you are accounting for the magnetic reversals in the ocean trenches? No idea. Again, I'm sure most people watching this are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Uh, I'll eventually go over it all, but that's going to be a while. That's I think after I finish the book, I'll spend some time to get all that like slides, and I might do like a 300 slide presentation on the the evidences for both, and then I'll let people make up their mind themselves. Yeah, what dinosaur has 500 teeth? Don't even know what you're talking about, my guy. And Lance has entered the chat. uh, glad you said most. Yeah. Anyway, so the there's so many interesting things you can go through, and then like, oh well, the ark. How did the dinosaurs fit on the ark? It's like, well, you could just take juveniles. You don't need,
Mm.
or you just take eggs that are fertilized. You
Mm.
don't really need to take a full-grown animal on the ark. It would be, you know, it would be a dumb idea in both ways because the space, because of food, and because of poop.
Mm.
Unless you take the view that they were just miraculously in like stasis, like God just froze them in time for a year. But if you do take the view that they're not in stasis and you have 8 people cleaning all the poop and managing food and water, uh, that the only problem with that system is the smell. Can't imagine that. Some like microbes, plants, and obviously things that God could supernaturally regenerate, but also like insects, and there's lots of things that are becoming challenging logistically, but all of it could fit very comfortably, especially if you take the young. If you take the young, that makes the most sense logically, because then you can just force them to reproduce longer. You wouldn't take a like a 40-year-old, turtle, or not turtle. Turtle's
Mm.
only 200. You wouldn't take like a
Mm.
40-year-old gorilla to then reproduce. You would take a 3-year-old gorilla that is already weaned and mature enough to gather food and eat and whatnot to then reproduce for 40 years versus something at the end of its life cycle. So it makes sense to take the young versions of all these animals because they will last longer, they'll have more babies, and they'll fit easier and need less food and water. And God has wisdom, obviously. So I
Mm.
imagine that the two of each kind that he brought were not full grown adults because that'd be stupid. He'd probably bring juveniles that would then develop over time. But then there's other animals that die within a year, like mice, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole debate. But it's not nearly as much of a like a slam dunk gotcha that some old Earth people think it
Right.
is. To be honest,
It's weird though, but the older I get, the more I realize that so many of the things that people dismiss the Bible for really are not what they see. It's easy, especially when you're younger or you're not surrounded by like-minded people or people that follow God, to get the delivery of the criticism matters more than the actual evidence. So they'll be like, "Oh, are you serious? So you believe in this, or you believe in it?" And you think, "Oh man, is it bad that I do?" And then you have to do the work of going back and figuring out why, like, it's fine for you to believe this, or there's reason for you to believe this. And so now, being so much older and having spoken with so many atheists, and there's not really any compelling arguments for it. It mostly is, I think, the strength of it is intellectuals uh using their flexing their perceived knowledge onto you, and that's where most of the force is, because I think a lot of people look around and go, "Oh, I don't want to be an idiot." Like, I know someone who they as far as I knew, they were Christian for the longest time, and then all of a sudden, one time, I saw them, and it came up that they were atheists now, and I said, "Wait, what? You're an atheist?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what happened?" And they went, "Science." And I thought, well,
Mm.
I like science. It doesn't science doesn't bother me at all, and I don't. And so I said, "What about science?" And they said, "Science." And then I was like, "Oh,
You're that
okay."
type of, yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
like, I don't.
No,
Do you even
I
think that
just,
makes it? Is it?
oh, it's so stupid. I cringed really hard just then because I remembered myself. And I'm like secondhand
How were you one of
embarrassment
those?
of my child. Yeah, and when I was like 13, I was like, yeah, science explains everything. I hate God. So
Mm.
part of my atheism phase was both like suffering and like the problem of evil, and like I felt the problem of evil because I was suffering because I believed demons. Which
Mm.
you don't believe demons. Believing demons is always a bad
It's
choice.
always a bad idea.
Always a bad idea. But I did.
But you got to
So
know that's what they are before you can not believe them, you know,
right,
that so that's
right, yeah, right. And that did not quite happen. So I was depressed and suicidal for a long time. And
mm,
then had an experience with God after realizing that all of the science that I put my faith and trust into was either entirely wrong for like some of the positions, or just not nearly as strong as what I thought it was going to be.
mhm,
Um, and then I was like, oh, okay, maybe there probably actually is a God. So like I started encountering actual arguments instead of just believing
mhm,
rhetoric. And
right,
I like debunked all the things I was believing in, realized that there probably is a God, hated that idea because I hated the God that
uh-huh,
people believed in, and then tried to kill myself. Didn't succeed. Then was forced to go to a unbeknownst. My parents were like, "Hey, let's go. Go with your sister to a youth conference because I don't want them. They didn't want her to go alone, and they forced me to go. They didn't realize I was suicidal. They didn't realize I just wanted to die. But they still forced me to
mm,
go. And at that event, I had an encounter with God that I couldn't explain, and then I gave my life to Christ. Later on, it's like it is a very long, lengthy process of stupidity. But by the time I was 16, I was fully, fully on board with Jesus. But the first book I started writing, I have not quite finished yet. It's 200 pages for the outline, and I think it's going to be like 800 or 900 pages total. And I keep thinking I just need to make it into either multiple volumes or multiple books, but I've been distracted by the other two books that I'm writing, and I have not finished any of the three. So I really just need to focus on finishing one of them before I just create a fourth book to write.
yeah,
So right now I'm trying to finish the Talmudic Dilemma. Then I'll finish the Gospel According to Chris. Then I'll finish the other book.
mhm.
And I think it'd be pretty cool. Anyway, I went through a long path of discovery to get to Christ out of my stupidity of atheism, and then now I'm here. Or God heals everyone.
And
Amen.
everyone's happy about that.
Yes. Raphael, God is our healer. Perfect timing, Tom, to pop up for that. Anyway, I'd still be like, science is cool. So what was the reason? Yeah, I get that.
It was, and I
Yes.
just kept getting science, and it's so
Yeah.
I realized, okay,
Right.
you haven't really thought
Yeah.
this through, so there's not really a point in it was, you know, for that person, it actually wasn't science. It was
Right.
a convenient escape route from God. I think that's what I kind
And
of
responsibility.
gathered from it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love the quote from, I believe it's Francis Bacon. That is the first gulp of natural philosophy, so science, will lead you towards atheism. But whenever you finish the glass and get all the way to the bottom, God will be down there waiting for you. So like the first taste of science is like, oh yeah, of course we don't need a God. Everything's explained. Then so it's the what's the effect? It is the confidence intelligence curve. Um, oh, as a specific name. The Dunning-Kruger effect. So the
Oh,
Dunning-Kruger
okay, yeah.
curve, where you have like extreme confidence with very little knowledge, and then as you gain knowledge, you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I don't know anything, and it's back down. Then you like slowly gain up again.
Yeah.
Um, that's the experience of you have your atheism so the y-axis is atheism versus theism, and then the right
Mm,
is your knowledge of science. So you go from no knowledge of science and you're just a street theist because it's obvious. You gain a little bit of
mm.
knowledge of science and you become an atheist. Then you gain a lot more knowledge of science and you become a theist again. So you have like this horseshoe curve where the two ends of the horseshoe are like the really dumb and the really intelligent, and they agree like God exists. It's
That's
base.
funny because now talking about it, I was trying to think. I don't actually think out of all the people I know and who are atheists, I don't think I know one like genuine atheist. I think everybody I know who's an atheist is more of an avoider of the idea of a God rather than somebody who would say, "Oh, I mean, I have every reason to believe in my experience that there is no such thing,"
Right.
which is interesting. I never thought about that before, but I don't know. Do you know any honest atheists, Chris?
I know one, but he just he calls himself agnostic. And we
Mm.
had multiple conversations of, well, if I told you a bunch of facts, like obviously, you know, Russia is the biggest country in the planet. I can prove that fact to you. Would you then
Mm.
believe Russia is the biggest country on the planet? And he said, yeah. So then I started using that as a metaphor for I can prove God's existence to you. And he's like, well,
Mm.
what if there's a larger country that I don't know about that's not discovered yet that
Uh,
is bigger than Russia? And I'm like, well, until you know that, you should at least put your trust and your knowledge and your faith into Russia being the biggest country on the planet. But he's like, no, I'm just going to hold out because I'm not entirely sure that Russia is the biggest country on the planet. And I'm like, that's very stupid, but at
yeah,
least that's
you
more
know, the
honest
eternal
than
skeptic,
some of these
really.
other versions. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. But love him. Um,
Mm.
hopefully one day we'll see. But yeah. So back to Genesis. So God made the expanse and separated the waters from below, which are the waters from above. And it was so. And he called the expanse heaven, Shemaim. And there was evening, there was morning, a second day. So again, this is why I wouldn't say it's literally a firmament. And it's just a very dense atmosphere that was
Mm.
very, very wet. And the whole earth was more of a greenhouse than what we currently are living in. But everyone was naked, so it didn't really matter. But it also wouldn't be like the harshness of a greenhouse. It would just be very wet, very carbon heavy, and more temperate. So imagine like 75, 80 degrees, very wet, and your skin's always hydrated and you don't get
Hmm.
sunburns. It's like, it's wonderful whenever you
And
think of it, because
presumably the mist would filter out any sort of harmful UV light that would
you wouldn't get sunburned.
negatively
Yep.
affect. Yeah.
Yep. It's nice. That was my favorite experience in the South growing up, because we would oftentimes get like 110, 115-degree weather. I think the hottest we ever got while I was there was like 125 or something like that. Like
Wow.
heat index, not like the raw temperature. The hottest we ever got, I think, was 113 raw, but the
Mm.
heat index was way higher, especially with humidity.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was so bad, and this is a terrible story, but the coaches of my high school would hold the thermometer in the shade to, because like by law you can't have your players exercise if it's a certain temperature outside. And if you held it
Oh.
in the sun, it would go past that temperature. So we held it in the shade of the bleachers in order for the thermometer to say it's lesser than the whatever, like the 100 and something that was, that you would die if you exercise in that
Mm.
heat, because otherwise he couldn't train for multiple weeks at a time. So,
Right.
yeah, we just kind of all embraced death to play sports growing up. Anyway, yeah. Uh, anyway, I don't need to tell the sad story version of that, but there was a sad story version of that too. People are stupid.
Oh no.
Yeah, no. There's a high schooler that died from heat stroke. Anyway, um,
Wow.
he went to my church actually. The I've got, oh, anyway, it's not that experience. Whenever it's misting, whenever it's very densely wet that way, the light scatters significantly more and you don't get nearly as much harmful UV, and it doesn't heat up the same way. So you're basically like in a steamed oven, but without the water, it just becomes a raw oven, and it's way worse. But it's also really bad if you have straight. It's like you're teeter-tottering on a very blissful, wonderful experience, and you wish you were dead. And there's not much of an in-between there. So
Yeah.
the imagination would lead that God kept it at the blissful experience and not the true Southern Alabama experience where you're going to die and the sun feels like it's actively trying to kill you in the summer. But anyway, yeah. So dense atmosphere, and maybe that water was actually good enough to actually cleanse the poop and it didn't rain, or it actually was raining and then the rain itself cleansed the poop and the dead bodies and all the other decay and waste management that needs to be done. No, I grew up on a military base, so I have the military accent. I do not have the hick Southern accent. I grew up in Tennessee specifically. I grew up on Fort Campbell. And my wife grew up 40 minutes away from me in rural Tennessee, and she has a very thick hick accent. So much so that where I live now in the Midwest, no one can understand her whenever she talks with an accent. So, yeah, I from 9 months until 23, I was in Tennessee. I just don't have a Southern accent whatsoever because of the military base. But yeah, I do not sound Alabama. Tyler does. One of my friends who's Alabama, he's been on the channel before. Very, very, very Alabama. Anyway, so my dad has a hick accent, but he's from the north, but he grew up on a farm, so he has like the country accent, not the hick accent. There are some words that my accent does come through, but unless you're listening for it, you probably won't notice it. My favorite one that my wife does is far. There was this phrase she used to say all the time that I made fun of her, so she stopped using it, but she'd be like, that burned a fire out of me. Because we had this debate on if fire is 2 syllables or 1 syllable. I was like, fire is obviously 2 syllables. It's fire. And she's like, no, it's far. It's far.
Yeah.
I was like, it's 1 syllable. I was like, no, that's not how the English language works. Where we don't do that here. No, thank you. Yeah, so if I ever say far, it's because going back to my root. Back to my root.
Your roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My root. Anyway. I'm glad I don't have an accent, but yeah. So, second day. And then God said, let the waters below the heavens be gathered into one place, let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees on the earth bearing fruit after their kind with seed in them. And it was so. So the earth brought forth her vegetation, plants yielding seed after their kind, and trees bearing fruit with seed in them after their kind. And God saw that it was good. I do want to bring up the Targums real quick. Onkelos and Neophyte both have it. But let's go back to God said, let there be light. So this actual in the Hebrew, it just says, and Elohim said, let there be light. Well, if we look at that in the Aramaic, it is, and said the word of Yahweh. These 3 little yuds is how you would shorthand Yahweh in the Aramaic. So this is also Yahweh, that's also Yahweh. Every single time you see those 3, it's in place of Yahweh or Elohim. Because it's too holy to say God, so they would just translate it as that. And then in Onkelos, they have the Yod Vav Yod. That's also what you say for Yahweh. So here where it says, and spoke Yahweh, and then, so it's literally, and said God, continuing on, let there be light. There's no memra in Onkelos, but in Neophyte, there is a memra. So according to Targum Neophyte, which is slightly after the time of Jesus, but its material is from the time of Jesus, we have a divine memra who is speaking and creating light. And it says, the light was made according to the decree of his memra. So he spoke and there was light. And then there was light according to what was said by the memra. So we have in the Jewish, Second Temple Jewish context, we have a divine logos speaking, creating the universe in Genesis 1. So John 1, talking about in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, and through the Word all things were made, without the Word nothing was made. He might be referring to Genesis, Bereshit 1 from the Aramaic version that they would read in synagogues.
Mm.
So this is like actually authentic. You can as a Jew in Second Temple Judaism get the exact same language of John just by reading the text.
Yeah, was that
As a
last stream we were talking, Chris, where we were saying that uh, modern Jews don't understand how very s- how not the way they take it. What am I trying to say?
yeah,
This completely lines up with the Christian view of things when they're talking about this type of stuff. Whereas Jews today would be like, oh, I would never, that could never be, or we would never read it that way. And then we have stuff like this that's in the same time
predated
period,
all the
and it's
Mhm.
they had no problem with it. So
Yep.
uh, super interesting.
Yeah, and I mean even what we looked at earlier with Isaiah. So that the whole
Mm,
passage where I was like, hey, this is like the Trinity. We
mm,
look at it. It is the Memra, the Memra who's declaring the I am. I am
mm,
the first and the last. It's the Memra who's declaring these things. And then later on, whenever it is 18, it's like, now Yahweh sends me. He sends
mm,
him along with the Memra. So the Memra pops up all over these, like the Memra stretch out the heavens. The Memra is the creator, all of that stuff. So it's still, now it's the word of God being sent by God along with
mm,
the Spirit.
mm,
So even in Isaiah, which is what Jesus was reading from, if he was reading from the Aramaic version,
mm,
we have Jesus here. If he's reading from the Hebrew version, we have Jesus here. If he's reading from the Greek, we have Jesus here. So this is still a other party, but the Jews interpreted it as this is the divine logos who's the creator of the universe. In Jonathan, which predates Christ or is contemporary to Christ, and in Neophiti, which postdates Christ, but the material predates him or is
mm,
contemporary to him. So you have, and then Onkelos also predates Christ, and there's many places where the Memra, like in Genesis 6, which we'll eventually get to, the one that shut him in, the ark, because it says God shut them into the ark, or God
mm,
was behind them, is the actual Hebrew. That same word is used, but for the word of Yahweh, for the Memra of Yahweh is the one who shut them into the ark. So you have this Memra, this divine logos that is being personified, that meets with Abraham, that makes
mm,
covenants, that eats, that walks, that talks, that shuts people in, that slays people. So you have like the divine logos doing all these things that the angel of Yahweh does, and also that Yahweh does. That doesn't make any sense.
mm.
Um, come back in 2027, we finally make it to Genesis. Also, I do love this comment. If you're not convinced, even the Quran calls Jesus the word of Allah. This is the
Mm.
proof. Yeah. Anyway, so just a quick little Aramaic tangent. Um, all of these, every single time it says, and God said, and God said, and God said. In Neophiti, every single one for all 7 days creation and afterwards, where it says, let him make us in our image, it's made in the image of the Memra.
Mm.
Anyway, yeah. Right. We could get that far. Yeah, that's a funny joke. We'll get to Genesis 6 by 2027. Crazy. I'm used to Anthony Rogers, so it's fine. Wild. Okay, I'll speed up. Okay, so then the God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed. So we have plants made on day 3 after he makes the dry land. So God makes the desert, as Christian was saying earlier, then he makes the seeds and the plants and all that. And then there was evening and morning, the third day. Then God said, let there be lights. So obviously the plants can't be there forever without the lights because lights are kind of needed, and we talked about that earlier. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs for seasons and for days and years." So God uses a lunisolar calendar to keep track of everything. You also have the constellations being very clearly seen whenever you don't have light pollution, which if you've
Mhm.
never seen the stars, like actual stars, not like light pollution stars, but like true pure stars, I highly recommend at least once in your life going to do it. To where you can see the constellations and you can see the nebulas. Like, I'll just bring up a picture real quick. Because I'm sure there's people who've never heard about this. Who are like, huh, that's pretty incredible. Um, I have to share my screen with it. Stop
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I've even moved neighborhoods like 5 minutes down the road from places, and the light pollution makes such a difference, even that like that. I've never been into a yeah, I've never had a nice view like that before.
This is the salt flats, which is pretty based. So the salt flats are a perfect mirror whenever it rains, in the spring and summer, because they're entirely flat and it's just that. So like, um,
That would be crazy to
you
experience.
can drive on it and it's literally just like clouds or wow man, the images are so terrible. That's better. Anyway, so there's like literal clouds on the ground that you're walking over,
And
and it's super
that's
based.
real, that's not
Yes,
enhanced or
this is real. This is
wow.
what it looks like to go to the salt flats at the right time. So this is a pretty sunset, and it's very hard to time. Me and my wife were trying to plan it for like a honeymoon, but these little
Hmm.
salt crystals, it just turns into a mirror whenever it fills with water. So you get some pretty beautiful effects for photography, which is why there's so much of it. And they actually have like dedicated campsites that are little like domes. They're pretty cool.
I feel like that would be
Um
almost overwhelming
Musings.
to experience.
Yeah. So they have luxury pop-up camps, little tents that you can chill in on the salt flats to then hope this is what it looks like without water. So it's literally just
Okay.
crunchy ground. So you stay there hoping that it's gonna rain, and whenever it does rain, it is gorgeous. If it doesn't rain, you just
Wow.
wasted your time. But this
And
one stars actually. Oh, it's bad quality.
where is that?
Utah.
Okay.
But maybe I can save the image and then bring it up.
How is this not more? I've never heard anybody
This
talk
one.
about this. How is this should be like the coolest thing anybody could ever do. This is
It
better
really
than
is.
the
Yeah.
than like this is
Yeah.
better than the Northern Lights, I think.
Yeah. It absolutely is. And there's no light pollution. Your wife is telling you to take you there, by the way, in the
No, I
comments.
figured that was coming.
But this is like the zones of like this is what most people experience, which is just truly tragic and heartbreaking. And like that's what it actually looks like. And there's like nebulas you can see and stars and
Mm,
like actual beauty in the sky. And it's like it's amazing. And we talk about like the Bible praises the handiwork of God and the stars and all that. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, if you can see it and experience it and be like, yeah, that's pretty based.
yeah,
But whenever you're looking
wow.
at it, and it's just like a couple dots in the sky because there's just so much light pollution. You don't know what the actual sky looks like. But the
Hmm.
salt flats are so far away from society because it's miles of nothing. It's just flat land that's all salt, so you can't really do anything on it. It's this dark, and there's a mirror effect, and it's beautiful. So if you get the right
Wow.
conditions and it's like an inch of water everywhere, you not only do you get this type of star, but you get that type of star on the floor too. So you look like you're like
Wow.
if you were in a chair, you would look like you're inside of the galaxy, uh, which is pretty
Man, I
based.
feel like that would be like that would might freak me out.
It's
Just to
really
like
cool.
so visually overstimulating, that something like that is crazy to think about.
Let me see if I can get a really pretty picture of it. Um, Oh, that one's nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Wow.
And you also see shooting stars. Shooting stars are significantly more common than people realize, by the way. You just can't see them because it's too much light pollution.
Mm,
But yeah, it's really cool.
man.
Anyway, off topic.
So
Beautiful, beautiful thing.
pretty on topic actually. And it's one of those things where you look at it and you're like, God is you always know how beautiful God is and his work is. And then you see something like that and you get impressed. You still to this day get impressed, when you can even like
Right.
fake generate this stuff that you could be like, oh, that's pretty. And then you look at that and that's real life and that's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some places on the planet that are so beautiful that it's hard to fathom the fact that
Hmm.
it exists and it's not like AI slop. But like, that picture I saw that picture years ago before AI even existed, or at least generative transformer based AI or
Hmm.
diffusion based AI, like the AI that can make images. Um, so those images, like you can actually filter Google by year. If you go back to the year 2020 and before, you can find
Hmm.
real images all the time, which is
Yeah.
nice and not just AI slop.
Right.
So whenever I'm looking for certain things, I don't want AI pictures. You can just filter Google results by the
Ah,
year,
that's good
and you
thinking.
you avoid all the stupid slop. Anyway,
Mm,
those are real pictures, though. Those are real things you can go and
that's so
experience in
crazy.
this life if you are lucky or if you live in the area.
Hmm.
Because if you live in the area, you're like, oh, it rained. Let me go out to the flats and find somewhere pretty. But
Wow.
yeah, something I definitely want to go experience myself. I'm about 6 hours from now for a drive, so technically I could. I'm like, hey, it just rained. Let's just go out and do it.
Right. Get in the car.
But yeah, like you have like a good like 2 day window, so like let's go. Anyway, eventually we'll do it. That's on our bucket list. Hopefully, Christ. Well, obviously, whenever New Earth, it's gonna be more beautiful than this Earth. So,
Mm,
but I do want to experience that in this life because that's on my country. It's not like I have to travel to South America to see the Rainbow Mountains. Which, if
right,
you don't know what
right.
the Rainbow Mountains are also beautiful. If you Google Rainbow Mountains of Peru, let's just take a tangent.
Okay.
We're gonna take another tangent of God's creation is so wonderful and beautiful. So let's just go on a
Just
tangent
very on
of
topic.
it's super on topic, yeah. Um, God made so many awesome things, and again, like how in the world could you not just worship? I get like as McCain said earlier, sometimes we make fun of like Gentiles, but like
Uh,
stuff like this exists, and it's like, okay,
what?
that's awesome.
Wow. That looks like
Like
good cake.
it really does, doesn't it? And it's like, this is just really cool. Um, and you're like, okay, I mean, yeah, I can see why people would like worship mountains or stars. And it's like,
Yeah.
if I lived in a place that had this and like that was my backyard, like, okay, I
Wow.
get it. But yeah, no, there are so many wonderfully beautiful places on the planet that people are just not aware of. The salt flats are my like all-time favorite. This is in my top 10. I could make a video just going through like these are all the beautiful places on the planet
Yeah.
that shows that God is amazing. Um, yeah, my friend who lives in Argentina, he's not that far from these. I'm like, if I come visit you, we're definitely going here and just
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
them.
Wow. And
Yeah,
and Chris, you
but
got to be my like inside guy where you can take video and picture where I can trust it and say it really does
yeah,
look like that.
it's really cool. Yeah, I think I'm giving your wife some like bucket list ideas. just uh just so I'm red
Well,
green
it is
colorblind.
funny though, because
Oh, that's
she'll bring
tragic.
places up, and
Yeah.
oh no, I know someone
Yeah.
is like that too. Uh, but and she'll say like she's brought up Colorado before, and I'm like, no offense, like it is beautiful, but it's not something that I would be compelled to see, I guess, in that way. I like. And that's and I was admitting, I'm a little bit jaded by just the internet or TV where you can you don't see them in the natural, obviously, so it's not even close to the same. But you can get
Mm,
kind of an idea and be like, oh, okay, it's not like here we've got woods, and you go see the woods and you think that it's
mm.
beautiful, but then you go see a big mountainscape and you're like, that's much more beautiful. But stuff like the salt flats or the Rainbow Mountains, that stuff, I mean, it just seems fake. It's so beautiful. And
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Or even the falls in the rainforest in Africa or in South America. Like there's um giant waterfalls. The movie Up actually portrayed them a little bit, but the actual version, like the real life of it, is way more beautiful than what Up gave it.
mhm,
Um, but those falls are just breathtaking. It's amazing. And it's basically like rainforest mountains, but with rivers and stuff on them. They're
mhm.
really cool looking. And it's like a bunch of cliff faces that are also just covered in life and water and all these really it's just awesome. There's so many beautiful, beautiful, amazing places on in the world. Um Australia has a really beautiful one too. Sebastian's not here right now, so I can praise his country, but there's a really beautiful cave system that has there's a jungle inside of a cave, which is pretty
Oh,
cool.
wow.
Yeah, it's really, really cool looking. Anyway, I'm a geology nerd. Um, hence, hence my geodes and quartz and other things I have in here. Also, just have like basic rocks. People make fun of me for. And it's like I like this rock. So I can grab a rock real quick. Um, this is so stupid, but I like this mineral. So I have like a little, like just like a
Oh, that's
rock.
pretty cool.
My camera's my camera. It's not cool. It's only cool to me.
It's
And then I
it's
have like
cool as rocks go.
as far as rocks go, that's a nice rock. Um, I have so many over here. Here is a rock bed layer from Shoal, that I got from the mountains that I grew up in.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
Again, not very interesting, but I really like it, and it's perfectly smooth on the inside. And because it's a riverbed, there's a bunch of little quartz in it, so it's
Mhm.
sparkly. And
Oh,
I don't
that's
actually
really
think I
cool.
can show that it sparkles on camera. Wait, maybe.
Well, I think, yeah, there's a couple little sections I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it sparkling a little bit. Um, but whenever you're looking at it in person, it's like very, very obviously sparkly.
Mhm.
Um, and because I'm like a rock nerd, and it really is like the beautiful, perfect skipping stone, man.
Yeah. Mhm. I have
Uh,
I went and it was just we used to live next to a creek and I found you found before in rocks where there's like coral and shells and things petrified,
mm,
but I found just on its own a complete like clamshell, not in a rock or
nice.
anything, and I thought that's really cool. I've never seen one that's just on its own. It's always been
Mm,
embedded in something, and so I
mm,
was like, wow, I found that. And it's super cool because it's all fat and chubby too. It's just looks like something you'd find in the ocean, but it's rock or mineralized. I don't know what the proper
interesting.
term would be, but
Fossilized.
fossilized. Yeah, yeah,
Mm, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've only found one fossil, and it was not very interesting because it was a geode fossil. It was a fossil of a rock, and it's like, okay,
yeah.
it's cool, I guess, but there's way cooler things that can be fossilized.
Mm.
Um, anyway, uh, we'll eventually get through Genesis. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from night, and then signs of years, and let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. So the purpose of stars is not for aliens to exist, but for light to shine onto this planet. Um, and also I went over last it was either on my stream or on the stream of Sons of Thunder Apologia because we're going through apologetics there. But I talked about how the chances of life are exceedingly vanishingly small and stupid, therefore there's no aliens anywhere else in the world because there shouldn't be life anywhere. The fact that we exist is a miracle.
Oh,
So
a quick, easy way to make that. I mean, that's a very good way to make that argument. I never thought of it like that before.
yeah, uh,
Yeah,
obviously
us
life doesn't exist
existing,
anywhere.
people
Right.
take that as saying if it happened here, surely it happened somewhere else. But actually, it's kind of the opposite of that.
We're a freak accident. We shouldn't
Yeah,
exist.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So the fact that we shouldn't exist likely indicates that nothing else exists, especially if their
Mm,
only purpose was for these things and not to actually inhabit life, but to just be
mm.
signs and a light source. If that's all that their purpose is, then that's all that they are. There's no life there, which is also maybe why the Earth is so unique. I did go over that in the apologetics. I basically went on a 30-minute science tangent. Um,
And for people
I've been
who aren't familiar with or haven't heard Chris talk about the biblical holy days, specifically right here is where we get how to run the biblical calendar, that where the holy days are based off of new moons, pretty much. Not all of
mhm,
them, but we measure months by the new moon, visible new moon.
right.
So and I think it
That's
even
a
uses the word there. Yeah. Where what verse are we on? It
16.
has yeah, moadim in Hebrew. That's the term for the holy days. What's one of the terms? I think it
Right.
means like a meeting, like roughly
Yes.
speaking, like a meeting or coming together.
Yeah, I was thinking Hajj is the other one. You
Yeah,
kind of have
Hag.
that
And
there
that's
of
like festival.
right. That's like to become great there. It's the great usage there. But yeah, like God designed this in a way to be usable for the Jewish people for their festival keeping. Because the Hebrew calendar is, I believe it's mostly lunar, but it's also lunisolar because there's leap years, and the
Hmm.
leap years are dependent on the cycles of the sun. So there
Yeah,
is leap
the
years that are
vernal equinox.
right. So you have leap years from the sun and then month keeping from the moon, which is why you still get um 12 month, but there's also like a possible 13th month.
Hmm.
Um the 13th month, if you just take 28-day months, you have 13 months. There's 52 weeks in a year, which is really dumb that we have 12 months and not 13 months. We should have 13 months that are all exactly 4 weeks, that are all exactly 7 days, and be 28 days, 13 months. That's the exact number of. Very frustrating. Anyway, you would have to then do extra leap year every so often, and you'd have an extra like time is weird. Time is hard. It's stupid. Anyway,
Not a fan.
I'm not a fan, especially whenever you're like doing math of like, okay, what's my salary for my hourly? Then you have to do 52 weeks instead of 48 weeks, and it's very dumb. Anyway, it's like 52 and a half weeks in a year. So what do you do with that half week? It's very frustrating. Anyway, God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light to the earth and to rule the day and the night. And as we were mentioning earlier, the way that night and day is counted is based on 6 a.m., 6 p.m. cycles, but it's literally first light, first dusk, or dawn to dusk, right? Dusk is the sun setting,
Yeah, yeah.
sun dawn is the sun rising. You have the sunrise and sunset actually determines day and night, but you can base it based on just the 6 a.m., 6 p.m., which I believe Rabbinic Jews still do. Unless I'm misremembering that. But
Well, I think it's more from what I know, it's more of a visual thing. They calculate the time, but it does change throughout the year as the light
right, yeah.
goes.
Then you have 13 minutes to get back to your house whenever the sun sets.
Yeah, well, like anything, there's arguing, and
Right.
some people light candles before Shabbat 18 minutes, and I think there's another school of thought that does it a half hour maybe before. I can't remember. I learn all that
Right.
stuff, and then I think I'm glad I don't have to do that because that's so I don't, it's so taxing and doesn't really make sense.
Oh, it's funny. Um, as far as the alien, like the UFO stuff, They're probably just extra dimensional beings, just spirit beings coming from a different dimension that are coming into this world. That's what the CIA said that they were, whenever they were examining it and testing it. So they've put out a couple reports saying that they were trans-dimensional beings entering into our atmosphere. Because if the standard cosmology is correct, aliens can't actually reach us. All of the universe is expanding at a rate that is impossible to travel through, even with like the idea of wormholes. You can't travel faster than light from standard cosmology, and because of that, aliens can't reach us. The not only is space stretching, the space that they'd have to travel through is also stretching and dilating. So you have the the whole universe is expanding, including space between objects, not just the objects themselves. So aliens literally can't reach us from traveling unless they like teleport through a wormhole or some other made up construct that we can't actually prove, other than like quantum tunneling. Anyway, uh, don't need to get too deep into it. Basically, aliens couldn't actually reach us even if they existed. Um, so the CIA and a couple other reports concluded that they were transdimensional beings, not physical beings. That they were beings from a different dimension that just popped into ours and then interacted with us in certain ways. They're probably just angels and demons. There are some interesting beings in space that kind of look like the description of the Sephirim and the cherubim.
Seraphim.
Yeah, Seraphim and the cherubim, with the eye of fire surrounded by wheels. There's stars that have really bright, intense small lights, and then there's a ring around it. And then it's like, oh, it's kind of weird.
That
So
would be
who knows?
terrifying.
That'd be very terrifying if those things just showed up one day. But there's lots of like occult ideas from like Aleister Crowley doing the walkings and opening up dimensions to other things, and like, oh, maybe they open up a dimension to the demons and they allow demons to come in, and it's just, but then like if two idiots rubbing their junk together could open up dimensions for demons, surely that would have always been the case. I think it's far more likely that just they're using that as a ploy to get people not to believe in God. I think that's ultimately what it's going to come down to, is AI or aliens are going to be presented in this massive fashion in order to get people to not believe in God, of like, oh, we're just all, yeah.
A modern
That's
day
probably
Tower of Babel type thing.
Yeah, something silly. There's some spiritual warfare that's going to be happening with it. Interestingly, people who have alien abductions, if they profess the name of Jesus, the abduction event ends immediately.
I'd never
And
heard that before.
This has been tested. This has been statistically significant. People who are going through alien abduction events or sleep paralysis events with sleep paralysis demons, if they profess the name of Jesus, the event ends.
That happened to me. Have you ever had that, Chris?
No.
It was not fun. But yeah, I couldn't move or talk, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. And it was not it wasn't like I was asleep or dreaming. I was awake, but I was like paralyzed, and there was some sort of horrible noise that was getting more intense. And so of course, I go to try to pray, and I couldn't open my mouth and I couldn't talk. And then eventually I was able to just barely whisper out Jesus, and then it stopped. So it's funny
There
that you
are
mentioned that, because
tens of thousands of reports all over the planet that are exactly the same, like that. Yeah. So your experience is not unique. That's almost the standard.
Wow. Yeah, and it was terrible.
Yeah. So that's so based. Yes, it is. It's indeed based. You don't have to be worried about aliens or demons or any of that stuff, because Christ already won the battle, won the victory. But
yeah, I guess as long as you're with him, then you're good. But it would be it would not be
Right.
good to not have that, not have him to call on in a situation like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of drone footage, which is strange though, that we can't really explain through biological means. Like there's naval released footage a couple years ago of a extremely fast moving UFO. I don't mean UFO in the alien sense, just like literally we don't know what it is. It's just a blob moving incredibly fast. And then all of a sudden it makes a right turn and goes the same speed the other
I've
direction.
seen that.
Yeah. At that level of G-force, if it was a biological thing, everything inside of that is crumbling into pieces. You are exploding from the G-force that's happening whenever that turn. So that is either a drone of some sort, like China invented this thing that we don't know about, but that's the only one that we've seen. So maybe it was like some stupidly advanced testing, or it's not a physical being; it's a spiritual being that we could just observe.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? We'll find out eventually.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I want to get through Genesis 1 today. We'll see. Okay. I'm in a very tangent-y mood today. There was evening, there was morning, the fourth day. And then God said, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, birds fly above the earth across the face of the expanse of the waters. So, again, the living creatures and like what's swimming within the waters is dog, specifically, which just means, you could say it literally means fish, but it's just any water creature. Like I think lobsters would be considered dog. Like you just have anything that lives in the water is that. So like there's lots of things in the Hebrew and in the Bible. It's like, oh, he was swallowed by a big fish, and like, oh, well, fishes can't. And it's like, no, he was
Right.
swallowed by a big dog. Like we don't know
Right.
what that is. That could have been a whale. It could have been whatever. Could have been a leviathan. Like
Or an
we have
extinct
no idea.
creature anymore, you know?
Or an extinct creature, right? Yeah, like maybe a megalodon or some giant version of a basking shark. No idea. Anyway, there's lots of debates with that. Same with the flying birds and some arguments atheists use against like birds. And it's like that word bird means literally anything that has wings. Doesn't mean like specifically bird. Like pterodactyls would be considered birds in the Hebrew there. Anyway, so some silliness there, but God filled the land, as Christian was saying earlier. He filled the land with what? So he went from those three conditions and then fixed those three conditions and then filled those three conditions with living things, which is
And
pretty
then called
super
it
based.
good.
And then called it good all the time. So there was evening, there was morning, a fifth day. Then God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures of their kind, cattle and creeping things and beasts of the earth after their kind. And it was so. Again, I would say from the young earth view that the kind is literally just a family of creature. So probably at the genus level. But it's not species. These are not, oh, this is like 17 types of canines. Maybe it was just a canine, generic canine, generic feline, and generic ursa, like a bear, like a, doesn't have to be the species. Same with the Noah's Ark. It doesn't have to be species. It can just be like, hey, camels, alpacas, and llamas can all breed. They will all come from one ancestor. It's probably just the ancestor of those three species and then all of their varieties. Same with, all the canines or all of the, what was the other weird one that you wouldn't expect to be related? It's giraffes and something else that are related.
Yeah.
Which are weird. I don't remember what the other one
It's a small animal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Googling it. Oh, it's the little, an okpi. The okpi is a genetically related thing to it. And it looks like a zebra that went through a rebellious phase.
Yeah. A
Is the
street
best way I could
zebra.
describe it. A street zebra. Hold on. Don't invite guests.
Okapi, is that what it is? Okapi? Is that how
Yeah.
it's spelled? Okapi, I think.
Yeah. So this is the rebellious zebra. Went through a little bit of a growth spurt. OKAPI.
Okay.
So they're like somewhat related to giraffes genetically. And they're like, oh, well, it's just an ancestor that split from. So like, even from the young Earth V, you would still have the splitting. You would just have a much higher rate of mutation. But you can still very easily get the same type of setup that evolutionists are talking about. Anyway. Yeah. I'll just read the comments for a second.
Yeah. One day I'll get working glasses and I'll be able to
I believe the reason Nineveh believed Jonah was because he was literally spat out by the fish they worshipped. I got
Oh,
got their attention
that's an
real quick.
interesting point.
Yeah, Dagon, their literal god is just a fish god.
Yeah, he's also
Um,
the one that was in the temple where when they took the ark, right? He was the one that ended up the idol was missing its arms and was bowed down in front of the ark.
mhm, yeah, that's pretty based.
Yeah, that's one of
Pretty
those
cool.
great stories where you read it and you're like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. He also probably resurrected at that moment, which is even crazier to think about. Like, not only did he get spit out by basically Dagon, he then came back to life,
Hmm.
probably on the shore. So my man got spit out by some kind of water creature, and then stood up after being dead, and then went and preached. And they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, let's do it.
And then acted just like a human, like we always do. And at the end, he's still a crusty, cranky
Bitter and
guy. Even
salty.
we always do that. We always mess it up.
Oh man, it's so much fun. I love the typology of Jonah. Anyway,
Mm,
um, so God made the beasts of the earth after their kind, and the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing of the ground after its kind. And God saw that it was very good, or that it was good, not very good. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, so that they will have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the sky, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps out of the ground." We'll go through the Hebrew in a little bit. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over everything that creeps on the earth." So God made male and female in the image of God. Does that mean he made a bunch of humans at this point in time? Or did he only make Adam at this point in time? Did he make Adam and Eve at this point in time? Is there a contradiction between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2? I would say no. I would say that Genesis 2 is just a snapshot, a zoom in on this day.
mhm,
And at the events of this day is what was happening. But I would also say that this covenant here, is given only to Adam, not to Eve. So you could just say, oh, Adam is the only one whenever this covenant is given. And then the events with Eve coming actually happens after the sixth day, which I do think is a somewhat legitimate reading of the text, that you don't actually have to have the female here for it. Or you can say that all happened on the sixth day. Or if you
mhm.
want to take the metaphorical view of like, oh, it was an age, not a day, and it's like 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever, then it happened during that time period. But again, lots of different views, lots of different opinions on Genesis 1.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. What you shouldn't have a difference in opinion on is this sentence. Let us make man in our image and our likeness.
Mhm.
That is very important. The important bit there is the news at the end of these words. So, "Anachnu" is how you say we or are. The "nu"
Mhm.
at the end in Hebrew makes it into a plural possessive, so it becomes "are," and it is God making, plural, again, he's making, plural, "nahasa,"
Yeah.
Adam,
Nase.
"nase," Adam. He is making, plural, man in our image and our likeness. So it's God, plural, making, plural, man in our image and our likeness. And then later on, it has singular again. So
Yeah,
God
and the
created them.
saying, the Wayomer is singular when God is saying,
Yes. Yeah.
but
And
then he
God said,
says
let
in
us.
our image.
Yes. So that we have this mixture between plural and singular that makes no sense whatsoever. And you cannot say this is a divine assembly of angels or spirit beings unless you're saying that they're literally like God,
Mhm.
because it's our image and our likeness. So they share the image and likeness with Elohim, but it's again singular, singular. So it's God creating singular, and it's singular both times down here whenever he creates them, and here, like you have
Mm-hmm.
3 instances of Bera being singular, then NASA, so whatever. My brain, it's just 2.5 hours in. Uh, this is plural, but then all of the creations that follow it are singular.
Mm.
And then God and the, his here down towards the end, those are singular, plural, but then so it's a
Yeah,
weird
so up
blending
there
of the
we have Salmenu for in our image, Bitsalmenu, but then when he makes them, it says Bitsalmo in his image. So it goes back to singular, even though when it first brings it up, it's our image, and then it says God made them in his image.
Yes. So it's one image, it's one creation, but it's multiple images and multiple creations.
Hmm.
That's a contradiction that is one sentence away from each other, or
Hmm.
it's a hint of the Trinity.
Right.
Because you cannot say it's angels unless angels are literally God.
Hmm.
I would just say that this is obviously the Trinity, or at least a multi-personal God, a God that can speak about himself, not in a royal we, because this is again not a royal we, because you
Well,
have
and
the
also,
singular and plural mixing.
angels are not male and female either.
Right.
Do ancient Jews have a concept of feminine members of the divine
Um,
council?
you do in so there's 2 places, or there's one main place in the Bible that talks about female angels. I want to say it's Ezekiel, where it talks about women with wings. Now you could say those are spirit beings, that are angels. Every
Mm.
other time an angel comes up in the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament, they're always masculine. They have
Mm-hmm.
masculine grammar, or the root the words themselves are literal masculine.
Mm-hmm.
There's only one passage in the entire Bible that has a feminine idea of a angel, and
Okay,
even
wow,
then that it could
I
only be
wasn't
like
familiar
that
with that
one
one.
position. Yeah. I can bring up. I think it's Ezekiel. Angel Ezekiel. Do, 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 do. They're not identified as females. Zechariah. Never mind. Zechariah 5:9. So this is the only thing that could possibly be female angels. And then let me get context. Then he said, "This is wickedness," and he threw her down into the middle of the ephah. Let's actually just go back to the beginning. We probably start at 5. Then the angel who was speaking with me went out and said to me, "Lift up now your eyes and see what this is going forth." So I said, "What is it?" He said, "This is the ephah going forth." Again, he said, "This is their appearance in all the land, and behold, a lead cover was lifted up, and this is a woman sitting inside the ephah." Then he said, "This is wickedness," and he threw her down into the middle of the ephah and threw the lead weight on its opening. Then I lifted my eyes and saw, and behold, 2 women were coming out with the wind in their wings. So we have women with wind in their wings, and they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heavens. And I said to the angel who was speaking with me, "Where are they taking the ephah?" Then he said to me, "To build a house for her in the land of Shinar. And when it is prepared, she will be set there on her own pedestal." So this is again in a vision, in a dream,
Mm-hmm.
and we have Jesus talking to him about this thing. And we have a woman right before this, which is obviously a personification of wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is just a personification of God's divine plan. Like, who knows? Or it
I
is,
see what you mean, though.
let's say,
In a vision, it's a spiritual type being
yeah,
being presented.
yeah,
But I definitely do. I see that this could easily be viewed as just a vision.
right,
You know what I mean? But
right.
yeah, I had forgotten about that. I guess it never really registered for me. Probably because I took it as more of a vision than something. But it definitely does have some spiritual. Uh, it definitely
Connotations,
could be viewed as
ideas.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You could definitely just interpret that as metaphorical and not literal. So if that is metaphorical, then there are no female spirit beings at all. If it's not metaphorical, then there might be. Again, kind of hard to tell, but the grammar of every single spirit being, and including the ones that don't really seem to be gendered, like the seraphim or the cherubim, like the giant, like what I would call a monster creature.
Yeah.
The thrones with the wheels, like those are all masculine verbs in language grammar, which is strange. So every single instance in the entire Bible, other than that one, is masculine for things that seem like spirit beings. And even then, that might be that. So as far as the Jews go, they do have the idea of female demons because they believe in Liliths.
Oh,
So they believe
right,
in
right.
Lilith and like succubi.
And
so
how far
they
back does
believe
that go, though? Do you know?
Babylonia 380 or so,
Okay.
280. Yeah.
So already when they were when they had formulated it, their own type of thing.
It's in the Babylonian Talmud, I believe.
Okay.
Lilith comes up a bunch in the Midrash, but I'm pretty sure Lilith also comes up in the Talmud. I'm probably search that real quick. Yes, she's described as the first E figure in Sanhedrin 39a as the mother of the demons. That's also probably where he got the idea for Iblis clapping his knees together. It's actually from Lilith and Samael, so Samael, which is the demon. It's Satan, like Lucifer. So Samael and Lilith are married, and they are the progenitors of the race that is demons. So they literally birth demons out of eggs. So
like jinn, kind of.
like jinn, yeah. There's a lot of overlap and parallel between them. So you do have that from the rabbinic position. But as far as the Bible goes, you don't really get male and females involved in that. But yeah, Lilith is also a screech owl. She's like the harpy, I believe. Like it's a mixture of different mythologies. Anyway, yeah. So as far as Genesis 1, Genesis 2 goes, there's multiple ways you can harmonize the text and not have it be a contradiction. I know a lot of like Reddit level atheists point to Genesis 1 and 2 as a contradiction.
Right.
When it's just a difference in narrative and difference in purpose of narrative. And it's not a chronological event. They could be happening simultaneously for certain sections, and that'd be fine. It's just, here is the broad strokes of creation, and then here's a snapshot of this aspect of creation. And it goes forth and it explains it in pretty, explicit detail for the Adam and Eve event. But anyway, going back down. So this obviously can't be the rabbinic version with God having the divine assembly work with it, especially because, I don't think there's any female divine assembly members to have the female likeness involved in it. And I don't even think that, like, my opinion of what the Imago Dei is being multi-parted. Like, we have a body, soul, and a spirit. We are multifaceted. We are not just physical beings. And then God has the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. There's loose parallels between the two. But if you try to force the parallels, it becomes a heresy. So don't force the parallels. Don't take it as truth. It's an analogy. Analogies for the Trinity are always heresy. So don't use analogy for doctrine. Use doctrine for doctrine. Anyway, but you can use the analogy of maybe part of being made in the image of God is we have authority and we have creative ability, because demons and angels don't appear to have the ability to create things out of their own will the way that we can. Satan doesn't have that ability for sure. So unless God deliberately took it away from him, and then demons also don't appear to have it. Otherwise, they could like crush humanity. Anyway, especially nowadays with all like the witchcraft and everything else that we've done to give power to demons. Because right now they're only able to operate in this world by our authority. We give them the authority that demons use to then terrorize us. Which is pretty wild to think about.
Yeah.
but demons only have as much authority over you as you let them, because you have authority over them, which is pretty based, pretty cool. Resist the devil, he will flee. Not you will flee, he will flee. Anyway, but they don't appear to have the same creative ability that we do. They're not inventors of evil, humans are, according to Romans. So the inventor of sin is humanity. Even though Adam was likely the, billions of in line of like sin, if you believe the fall happened before the temptation and not at the temptation, which is again a difference in opinion. But if you think he was cast out of heaven because of the temptation, that is a separate thing there. We do get that he plotted murder, and I'm getting ahead of myself. That's Genesis 3. I guess we're fine. We'll go back through that in way more detail, but basically there's this idea that the Prince of Tyre is representative of Lucifer. Lucifer was a cherubim, and the cherubim's purpose is to guard humanity. So the reason why the devil was in the garden was not because God put them there to tempt her, but he put them there to protect them. And then he found pride and sin in him, and then he used his opportunity to kill humans because he was jealous of them, because they had what he sought after, what he coveted. And then he thought that whenever she ate the fruit, she would literally die at that moment. So the first murder attempt was the devil misunderstanding what God meant by she will die and trying to get her to eat the apple. And that might have been the first sin. And then Eve eating it might have been the second sin. And then Adam eating it was the third sin. But Adam's sin is what actually mattered, because his sin was the part of the covenant. So only Adam was the one who broke the covenant. So you might be able to say that Eve and Satan weren't actually sinners because they were not part of the covenant with God. Or you can say they were sinners, but their sin didn't have the same consequence as Adam had, because he was the one who was actually in the covenant with Yahweh.
And I guess also in the authority position as well.
Right. Stupid snake couldn't even get that right. Yeah, he's pretty dumb. Oh, I just saw this Babylonian Talmud, also known as the Quran, as well. Oh, yeah, it's pretty bad. We're gonna go through one of the next Abraham video is gonna be on smashing idols, and it's like one of the longest parallels in the Quran with the Talmud.
I got to some of I saw one today. What was the tagline said? This didn't happen. It was what video did you put
Abraham
out
with
today?
the angels. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't get to finish that one yet because I was listening to it while I was driving to work.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's cute little story. And it's just taps here, so it's like the weakest of the Abraham ones, but the smashing idols and the conversion of stars is just obviously ripped off. So blatantly obviously ripped off. Anyway, so God creates them, and he creates them in this way that grammatically doesn't make any sense from the rabbinic view, makes total sense from the Christian view. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply. Man, did we do that. We still do that. And fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over every living thing that creeps on the earth. So again, you might say, if this is Adam and Eve present, or if you take the view that there's thousands of humans, which I don't think that biblically makes sense, but that can be part of the discussion for the incest bit, which I don't. This is going to be ruffling people's Jamie's too, but I actually think it's biblical. Our morality is covenantally based, and in the first couple covenants, incest was not a sin. So incest at one point in time was not sinful to do from a biblical perspective. That means that incest in and of itself is not inherently sinful. It's sinful because of the consequences it has to family and our genetics. And that's why God eventually outlawed it. But obviously, incest had to happen no matter how many humans you have on the planet, unless you have like billions to start, and that's just stupid. So we don't see any evidence of that biblically or archaeologically, or like, just no. Anyway, no matter what you start out with, whether you start with 2 people or 100 or 1,000, you end up with incest very quickly, very rapidly. Whole Ummah is celebrating now. Thanks, Chris. To be
Allahu
clear,
Akbar.
cousin marriage is not illegal in the Bible. You just shouldn't do it the way that Muslims do it because that's
Mm,
idiotic and evil. Not evil.
yeah.
It's very stupid because of the level of IQ drop that you get. Um, Generational habitual incest of that sort is bad. Occasional cousin marriage, there's actually nothing biblically wrong with it. It's not a good idea in general, but like 20 plus generations is not a good idea, as Jack put. Uh, Interestingly, the incidence rate of point mutations on babies is around 2%. So 1 in 50 people will have a mutation born from non-incest parents. Cousin marriage, first generation cousin marriage, where there is no previous history of cousin marriage, just like, oh, I'm just so happened to marry my cousin, whether it was on purpose or accident, that incidence rate is only 6%. So it's still 3 times higher, but still only 6%.
Mm.
The incidence rate of defects in like Pakistani children is like 60% or so. It's like 50. Like it is
Wow.
a vast amount of them. It's so common they actually have their own genetic disease that's unique to their ethnicity. French Canadians also have a genetic disease that's only French Canadian, which is interesting. But they have the rat heads, if you've seen
Yeah,
that.
yeah, the
Um,
microcephaly.
yeah, but Daniel Kikachu told me it's good to have low IQ. Yeah, it's so stupid. Yeah, no.
Has
Um,
he been laying low for a while? I haven't heard much about him in months, it seems, or is it
yeah,
just he's just hasn't been cycling through my algorithm?
it's only been 2.5 weeks, but this year's flown by with such gusto. There's so much happened this year so far.
Mm.
But yeah, no, the whole Daniel thing was like beginning of January, like
Oh,
mid-January.
that was already January? Wow.
Yeah,
I
it's only
guess
been
I
a
used to
month.
see so much more of him, and there's been a like a noticeable decline in that, and I didn't know if it was because he was laying low or if it was just because people weren't paying attention to him anymore.
Right. Yeah. Um, no, it's only been a month since he's dropped out of favor for a bit because he's not very bright and advocates for evil. Anyway,
Mm.
um, but yeah, so like biblical examples of incest that are not condemned is like Abraham marrying his sister, his half sister.
Mm.
We have obviously the children of Adam and Eve. They all commit incest. So I would say Cain married his sister, Seth married his sister, Abel married his sister. And I would say again, the Bible doesn't really seem to have a problem with it. And
Weren't
then Noah's children's, their descendants would also be at least cousin marriage,
Isaac and Rebecca?
cousins.
Yeah, yeah, cousins, yeah. And then
Yeah.
also Jacob and
Rachel,
Rachel and Leah.
Leah, yeah, they're cousins. And he married sisters, and then both sister marriage is outlawed in
Right.
both half sister and marrying two sisters. So
Mm.
both types of marriage we get from the patriarchs are outlawed in the Torah. So
Mm.
we get that what was sin for later generations was not sin for the patriarchs because he explicitly says, "Hey, this is what they did wrong." That's never mentioned at all.
Mm. Right.
So it seems to indicate that it wasn't a problem, that God didn't have an issue with it, that our morality is not black and white, but it's a development. Because again, eating meat was bad for the first 1,000 years of history, and then
Mm.
eating meat is now permissible. So again, covenantal theology also changes morality. God's morality doesn't change on a whim, it doesn't contradict itself necessarily in the way that like abrogation works. I'm not saying that the laws were abrogated. I'm saying that the what is considered sin for this time is not necessarily sin for all times. That things can come and go and be sinful or not sinful, which will ultimately get back into the debate me and Stephen will eventually have on, you know, keeping Torah or not. Uh, but I do think you can make a good case of that in the Old Testament. And then I would say you can then expand that into the New Covenant with certain
Mm.
things. At least
Although at least in
circumcision,
every
we can
case
agree
we
on
brought
that.
up so far, it's been things that were put things were no longer acceptable.
Right.
So far we haven't had an example of one where it wasn't
Well,
acceptable, but now it is.
eating meat.
Well, oh yeah, there we go. Okay, good one, good one. Although sinful, I don't know if it was shouldn't
It was
necessarily would be
prohibited.
a what was it prohibited or was it just not
Well,
done?
he said, "I have given you the
That's
plant
true. He
seeds."
gives them the plants. Yeah, so then if
Yeah,
they were to eat the meat, it would have been outside of that. So yeah, it would have been
would have been
sinful.
breaking it. Yeah.
Mm.
Then he explicitly says, "Now I'm giving you meat as
Mm.
well, like the plants." So we know that they only were vegetarian because he says, "Now meat is an option to you, like plants, and plant is their
Right,
only food
right.
source up until that point." So, and then also animals are starting to eat each other and all that stuff.
I did want to ask
Yeah,
you that. Do you think that in the original creation, the animals were all vegetarian as well?
I would say yes.
Because I would say yes too, and people, a lot of people seem to take issue with that because they're like, "Well, look at the teeth," but then you could, the
Like hippopotamus, like
yeah, there's
hippos.
still
Hippos
way things
terrifying.
to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, hippos have the most like that thing shreds meat to like, but no, they use it to eat watermelons.
Right.
They just smash giant fruit with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But they look like carnivores. They're not.
Uh,
Now they can kill you like a carnivore for sure.
yeah,
Hippos
yeah.
kill more humans than just about anything else. Hippos are not. Do not play with a hippo. If
Right.
you're on a safari for whatever reason, there's a hippo looking at you, leave. That's my public service announcement is hippos kill 500 people a year. Crocodiles kill like 6.
Yeah.
Don't mess with hippos. Anyway, they will win. Even if you have a gun, the
Yeah.
hippo will win. Unless you have a very good gun and shoot just the right place. The hippo's going to kill you. And they can run at like 40 miles per hour. They're going to outrun the car that you're in at a dead stop. So you're going to die to the hippo. Don't. Anyway, yeah, I'm significantly more terrified of hippos than I am lions and bears, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Rhinos are chill though. Rhinos are pretty cool. They're blind,
Mm.
so they react negatively to things, but they're actually like have the temperament of a Labrador. So
They look
they're
they
pretty
look
cool.
like they kind of are alluring as you want to pet one. I would never want to pet a hippo, but I would like
Yeah.
to pet a rhino.
They will actually roll on their back and let you pet their tummies because they like it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's really cute. Rhinos are like the largest dogs on the planet that are just they're only mean because they can't see and there's like lions and hippos and like like all the things that are big that are predators or happen to be in Africa. So they just live in a biome that doesn't support them being as nice as they want to be. But in zoos and stuff, like they're super nice animals. As long as you don't spook it, you have no problem with rhinos.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I would 10 out of 10 would rub a rhino belly.
Yeah.
Anyway. So then God said, "Behold, I have given to you every plant yielding seed that is on the surface of all the earth, and every tree which has the fruit of the tree is yielding seed. It shall be food for you. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the sky, and to everything that creeps on the earth which has life, I have given every green plant for food." And it is so. And God saw all that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. It was very, very good, super, super based. I think it's usually translated as me'od is like the amplifier word.
Yeah,
So it's
Tov Me'od.
basically right, yeah. So good and then very, which is like this is the same word used to describe the beauty of people like Rebecca. Where she is
Mhm.
mild, it's not Ife, but it's like mild, like she's very beautiful to
Yeah,
like
visual
behold or
beauty.
to
Yeah.
see. Yeah. So this is very good, very tov. Yeah. Based. So we made it through Genesis 1. Is there anything else I want to mention on it before we move on? The day age stuff, I don't fully subscribe to that idea.
Mm.
I would take it more as 24 literal hours, but again, I'm not super dedicated to that. If we had really good evidence of an old Earth, I would be fine saying that this is metaphor. But I think the genre of the Bible here is meant to be narrative historical. I know William Lane
Mm.
Craig uses the term mythos history or mythohistory. I don't like that idea because I think it's undermining what the author the ethereal intent of the passage is supposed to be doing. Like, yes,
I
it's defeating
agree.
the Babylonian myth and the Egyptian myth, but it's obviously also trying to explain to humans our relationship to God. And this,
Mhm.
importantly, has the most important verse of the Bible, Genesis 21:26 or 1:26. Let us make man in our image according to our likeness.
Mhm.
So they will have dominion over the official. Yeah. So it's part of the covenant of like our relationship to God. But God created man in his own image, and he created them male and female. He created them in his image. So if you're going to start mythicizing Genesis 1, you're undermining the most important section of the entire Bible. The entire
Mhm.
Bible rests and falls on this paragraph here. I don't mean that as a hyperbole. I really do think that the gospel doesn't have effect if this is not true. That the purpose of the Jews don't have effect if this is not true.
Mhm.
That God's relationship to man would become like Allah. Like, if this wasn't here, Islam all of a sudden becomes possible.
Right. Well, all sorts of terrible things become possible, really, because
Yeah.
I mean, even like just human reason and worth and things like that can fall apart if you take this in certain directions, or I mean, if you don't have that.
Yeah. Also, slavery is no longer evil.
Hmm.
Yeah. You can justify it. So the reason why slavery ended was because of this paragraph. That's pretty incredible. And now
Hmm.
Islam's bringing it back. Well, they've always had it. They never went away.
Yeah.
But now they're re-legalizing it because they realize that the West is going to be sympathetic to them no matter what, so they don't have to do it
Hmm.
to get money anymore. Anyway, um, yeah, it's super based, super good. Uh, do, do, do.
And it's one of those things too where the more you know, the more you go through the rest of the Bible and the more you know about the Bible, you come back to something like this and it's even
Mhm.
more opened up to you. I remember
Yeah,
when I was a kid and I'd read it and I'd think, oh, I'd just breeze right through it. I'm like, oh, okay, this is how God made stuff. Big,
right.
cool, but
Big whoop.
but
Yeah.
right. And but then you when you understand the entirety of the Bible and the gospel and everything, and you come back here and you see it all in there, it's not just simply so God did this and that's why this is here, even though it is that as well. It's just very
Mhm.
cool.
Right. I did have this highlighted here to contrast it with the later passage. So this is again Yasa. So this is the
Yes,
same
well,
root.
yes.
Yes, by
Hmm.
us. This is the same word as this one, just in the singular. Or it's the same root. So it's still God making, but we
Yeah,
have God
singular. Yep.
making using the same word, and again, it's here in the singular versus the plural. So this is more interesting, more unique because these words are used in the passage of the Bible. So it
Hmm.
seems to have this thing happening in the Hebrew. Um,
Which really kind of accentuates when it says "naase," let us make. It really stands out.
yeah. Hey Ash, I think we're gonna be wrapping up soon. We just went through a bunch of tangents. It's hour 3 of the stream so far. Uh, yeah. Is there any Hebrew that you find interesting in the Genesis 1, Ash, before we head it off? If you want to join the stream, it should be the same link as last time. If not, I can email it to you real quick if you want to hop on. Because I'm using my phone to record. It's all very interesting. Uh, sent you the link if you want to join. If not, it's fine. Um, no, I'm wiped. That's fine. The link I did send you though for the Monday streams is I'm always going to use that link for the Monday streams. So if you ever want to hop on for any reason, you can. Yeah, it's pretty cool. You can use it to show the Trinity. You can use it to show lots of interesting things like the breath spoken into the creatures, the light, the day night cycle. Like there's so many interesting things in the Hebrew itself that
Hmm.
we went over a little bit last week. We went over a tiny bit of it today. I highly recommend people to search it out to if you're going to learn Hebrew, spend time going through Genesis 1. It is a treasure trove of beauty and amazing foreplanning, and also counteracting these other false belief systems all at once. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, God is specifically pointing out, like, hey, I made water. I made the ocean, because the ocean was the primordial deity that spawned all of the other things. In
Right.
Egypt, you had the dude gooning, and the semen is what spawned the other
Yeah.
Egyptian deities. But most other mythos, you have primordial waters, like the Greeks. They have primordial waters, and you have Nox coming out of the primordial waters. And then Nox is then forming the other, like the Kronos and the other Titans, and the Titans are then forming the gods, and then Zeus is like the king of them. But you have the primordial waters, the primordial deities, all spawning out of these things. It's like, oh no, God made it.
Yeah.
Like, God designed it. He was over the surface of the deep. He didn't come out of it. He was over it. He has dominion over it. He is literally hovering. He's like stomping on them. He's in control of all of it. And then he is in control of the light. He is in control of the heavens. He is in control of wind. He is in control of sky. Like, these are literal gods, Nut and Shur. Like, these are Egyptian deities. So he's also teaching them, hey, Egypt isn't real, Babylon not real. These like important cultural centers near them, their mythos. The Genesis 1 account is demonstrating, no, it didn't happen. That
Right.
God is in control of the earth. That Geb isn't actually a thing. He made Geb, if you want to go that way. But like, Yahweh is in command of everything. And then the sun, and like, it's also interesting that the sun and the moon, which are the like central deities of most pagan religions, including Arabia for generations, like Almaka and Shams were the two big ones. That's the moon and the sun. In the Arabian, and also in like Asia Minor, Turkey, and the Middle East in general, like the sun worship of Shams was like almost 2 millennia, off and on in popularity. Same with the moon worship. So you have that all over the place. And he waited to create the sun and the moon until day 3. So he'd already made plants before he made the central deities of every other religious system. You think about how baller that is from Yahweh, like belittling
Yeah.
the sun and the moon, as they're just created things. They're just shiny objects in space that give us light and help us tell day and night and tell seasons. They're nothing. They are nothing. But all of these mythoses have like, these are the high deities. So he's delaying the creation of the high deities to show that they are nothing beneath him. That's awesome. And same with all the animals, because the animals also personify these deities. He is the maker of the hippo. He is the maker of the crocodile. He is the maker of the lion. He's the maker of the cattle. He's the maker of the iblis, or the ibis. He is the maker of the heron. He's the maker of the eagle. He's the maker of the hawk. He is the maker of all these animals that the pagan deities are encompassing. I think Stephen restarted because he's experiencing lag, or his internet fully died and he left. But either way, Yahweh here is showing, he's demonstrating that all of these other, get back. Oh, he's sideways.
There's some gin at work, I think, and not the kind that's good to drink.
So all of these other deities that are lesser, that are created, that are imagination,
Figment.
all these things, figments. Thank you, my brain. Speaking of wiped, we're at 3 hours, so we're gonna stop soon. But figments of imagination, not real, and Yahweh is showing that he is the I am. He is the one you should worship. He is the one that is in charge of all of this. And humanity's relationship to the pagan deities is almost always the pagan deities got bored or horny.
Yeah.
And they wanted someone to either kill or have intercourse with. And God made us in his image to have relationship with him. Not sexual, not violent, not as puppets, not as entertainment, but as genuine family. that is so unique in history. That's so
Yeah.
unique in 2000 BC. Like, what are you gonna what is even comparable to the Torah in its quality of
Right.
understanding the universe, its quality of understanding science and everything else, and its quality of just everything. Even like going through Genesis 1:1 with all like the mathematical stuff that came out 1,000 plus years later, 2,000 years later. Because
Hmm.
the whole idea of numerals to represent letters and all that didn't come about until Babylon. And even then, God used a man-made system. It seems like God did use a man-made system and has all these patterns inside of his book.
Hmm.
So like he preemptively saw that they would make up this thing and then made it in this beautiful way.
Hmm.
That's kind of insane. Or you can just say that it's a magic coincidence, but it's a pretty weird. It's not weird. It's an impressive coincidence if it is coincidence. I don't think the
Right.
7 words is a coincidence. I think the 7 words is for sure planned, and the 28 letters is planned, being like the 7 sevens. It's 4
Hmm.
sevens in this. But like all the mathematical stuff we went over last week, that could very
Yeah.
well just be coincidence and just pattern matching the same way that like the miracle of the 19s do for the Muslims.
Although
Um,
one could argue with a word like coincidence that that would just be our description of something that, because and I would think in every type of instance
right.
has some sort of meaning beyond what we can see. Uh, so it definitely looks amazing, the math stuff, especially.
Yeah.
And again, all the stuff you've been bringing up is just, it is so unique amongst world religions ever, in all of history. There's a common thread in all the world religions that never really touches anything like what we find in the Bible.
I just
In-
noticed your name is the servant of Jesus the Messiah.
oh yeah. I was gonna
Yeah.
put slippery Judaizer, and I thought, no. I mean, people could
You
still
you
see the
were
Hebrew there and be like, I don't know about you.
you were too small in your little corner there. I didn't notice that you actually had. I saw the Hebrew and just didn't decide to read it. That's pretty based. Then I have Abdullah, so we both kind of have the same name there. But
Yeah, oh yeah.
Abdul is a slave of, so it's like slave of Yahweh. Then you have the slave of Jesus the Messiah. Based.
Hey, that's funny. See, that's not a coincidence, Chris.
Look at that coincidence there. Yeah. There's so many cool things about the Bible. And we're gonna get into a little bit of the typology. There's 3 types of Christ in Genesis 2 and 3. So we're gonna do a little bit of typology next stream and every stream after that because there's so much typology in Genesis.
Hmm.
Eventually Tommy will do a stream on Joseph because that's his mate. That's his
Oh,
favorite
cool.
type. So yeah, he has a very lengthy presentation on it.
Oh, nice.
We'll do that for a stream. It's gonna be fun. Uh, Other than that, basically go read the Bible.
Yeah.
Study Hebrew if you want, but even if you don't study Hebrew, go read the Bible. It's way cooler than you think it is.
Hmm.
Um, anyway, any last thoughts?
Uh, Science is cool too. And people like us who love the Bible and love God are not afraid or put off or uh, dodging of science. We love science. Everything we see in science to us shows us something more and more magnificent about God, who we view as the originator of all those things. So, if you ever wonder about getting too far into science, there are arguments in science that are very anti-God, and I think I would say that a lot of them are intentionally that way. But if you're good with God and you have a solid grasp of the gospel and the Bible, then there's nothing in science I see that doesn't make me marvel at how wonderful God is. So science and Bible work really well together, and don't let other people tell you otherwise.
Yeah, I'm a somewhat of an example of that. I don't want to over hype my own understanding of science, but or just the world around us, because science is not really knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. Science is just a
Mm,
mechanism we can use to gain knowledge. Um, So I won't toot my own horn. I am nothing. I'm a worm. I'm less than a worm. Jesus is the worm of Psalm 22. I'm not even fit to be the worm of Psalm 22. Anyway, yeah, but like you can study engineering, you can study science, you can study math at a very high level. I'm college graduate. I have that expensive piece of paper that no one cares about in STEM. So like I've done it, and that led me to where I am now with God. So I came to God through the intellectual. You can very easily go into the intellectual and still keep God, especially if you go deep into the intellectual, you'll only see God by the end of it.
Mhm.
As I quoted Francis Bacon, if that is the right person to quote, I'm pretty sure it is. But anyway, thank you for everyone who came out. I know we probably cycled through people throughout the stream because it was 3 hours. But any of the crazy people watching the recording up until this point, thank you. I know like at least like 10% or so of people who watch my streams watch all of them. And that's pretty based. It's pretty cool. Thank you. Let me know, like, say just based in the comment section if you make it this far as a rewatcher.
You have a based base.
Based base. Yes, based fan base. Anyway, okay, we're gonna call it there. Thank you for coming out. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you always. Goodbye. Laila Tov.